Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Autodidactica. I am one of your hosts, Matt Paul.
I'm the other of your hosts, Glenn Clark.
Today we have a special episode. Something we probably should have done more towards the middle of our inaugural season of Autodidactica. But for any of those out there wondering, this week is going to be Who Even Are We, where we will be interviewing one of your hosts, and kind of going over who you've been listening to for the past almost year, a little
It's
over a
been
year.
over a year,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Um,
and it's part one because we're gonna flip in the next episode.
right.
Because I mean that's
The,
when we were breaking down the first season. I mean that was something I was thinking about. That's kind of the question was in my head. Who even are we? Like
right.
we're up here doing this podcast. Who even are we? So it's just kind of like an opportunity for you, the listeners, and or viewers on YouTube, just to kind of get to know us, what we're all about. Actually, I mean, Matt's kicking this one off, so
Yeah.
he's
He's on
setting
the
the
chopping
tone.
block.
So I don't know what
Glenn
kind
is
of
on the
things are going to
chopping
come
block.
out. Yeah, like I don't know. This could just be dumb stuff. Like if you had to bang a chicken, would you wear socks?
Right. And see,
And I
that's the stuff
mean,
I'm going to
I.
have to prepare for next week.
Oh, I
Glenn's is
spoiled it. I spoiled
yeah,
my.
Glenn's will be much tamer than that. So I'm going to have to I'm not preparing for my interview from Glenn at all because I have no idea what's gonna come at me. Glenn has no idea either,
Yeah, I was about
but
to say I didn't prepare for this at all. This is the only episode. Well, the last episode where we just all the nonstop BS. I didn't really prepare for that one either.
right,
But this one, it's
right,
like I don't even know like where you're going because there is a direction for. It's like walking into it blind. Like there is a direction, there is a plan for this episode, but I am not privy to it aside from you're going to be asking me questions.
right.
So
And
it's interesting
it's yeah, no, and I'm scared. Um
because I'm going to answer the questions.
no, because I'm scared for myself next week or next
Oh,
episode.
okay.
Um but Glenn has no reason to be scared. Glenn he is fearless as it is. I could
My
ask him
neighbors.
whatever chicken question you just put out, and he would give me a detailed and thought out and uh yeah, he'd put together some sort of answer that nobody would be expecting.
Probably it would be a well thought out answer. I try to be
Yeah,
honest. I try to be real. If I were gonna bang a chicken, would I wear socks? I don't know. I mean, but we're not gonna go there. That's not one of
we're
your
not going to go there.
questions.
Yeah,
Not
that's going to be one of my
unless
questions,
it
so I'll
turns
have to
out
ponder
that's
on
like the
that.
third question on your list. You're just like trying to cover it.
Yeah, did you look at my questions?
I did.
No,
No, I
but
did
so
not.
as Glenn mentioned, I hope you tuned in for our last episode, which was a nonstop episode of BS, and
Right.
um, that was actually harder than I thought it would be
Really?
because well, if you recall, we had a very intense political conversation
I
the
honestly.
evening before,
Oh, that's right.
and so and we were not done with that conversation either.
That's right.
But we had to go to bed because it was a school night, a work night. Um,
Wait, was it? I thought.
yeah, that was a Thursday night that
What?
we just ended up in the kitchen. We were ranting,
Oh no,
raving,
that's okay.
hooting,
You're
and
not talking
hollering.
about Autodidactica. You're talking about the preceding conversation. That's right.
Yes,
We were just
yes,
standing in the kitchen.
and we were having one of our
For,
kitchen convos,
yeah, that
a
just
very
happened.
heated
That's
political,
right. It got really
ideological
like yeah,
debate,
it got
and
tense.
then so the next day we've got to record a nonstop episode of BS, and I'm just over here still like, so what do you think about this? And just trying to take it there. And we had to I kept having to rein myself in during the episode of BS and try to keep it somewhat jolly.
Hmm.
Um and but there was still plenty of BS in there.
Right.
Lots of Bible study.
Gosh, I honestly don't remember like exactly what we talked about. Bible study?
Yeah, BS, bullshit,
Oh,
Bible
Bible. Oh,
study.
I see.
Yeah.
You made it
Yeah,
funny.
I
I'm
made it
sorry.
funny. Yeah,
I
hopefully they got it.
I surely they did. I've had a long day. Also, I'm senile. I'm senile, drunk, and insane, and I don't even drink
Right. It's just the
except
ethanol.
coffee. Yeah, it's
He huffs gasoline.
right. We both are taking a sip. Dead air. Uh, dead air is like the thing that makes editing take this the longest because we both make dramatic pauses for no apparent reason.
Processing
Like
power.
exact no, that's exactly it. Like in my YouTube channel, I've learned to freeze. Like when I have to gather my thoughts, I just that way the jump cut isn't jarring because I'll be in the exact same position when I start talking again. So I have
Oh,
all this
right.
footage of me just like where I'm trying to think about what I'm gonna say next. But here, like we don't do that. We so you'll see a jump cut sometimes because if you're watching on YouTube, because whenever we're gathering our thoughts, it just goes silent for a few minutes. Or not few, it doesn't go for a few minutes, but maybe a few
No,
seconds
no.
to where it's
Yeah.
noticeable. And then I'll snip it if it's like a noticeable, because first and foremost, this is an audio show that
Right.
you can also watch on YouTube.
Right. And
But
yeah, we don't do much emoting uh in the
right.
video. It's kind of just if you want to see put a face to the name, check us out.
Right, right.
Um
Because we're hot.
yeah, I'd like to think so.
Yeah, yeah. I do me. Was that one of your questions? I didn't mean to get ahead of you.
No, 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 no.
I was like, would you do you?
No, that god damn it. I'm just so nervous for next week. Like I'm gonna have to answer questions like that.
No, look, I'm gonna follow your tone. I think
Okay.
maybe but I
Well,
am
no.
me,
Well,
so
my tone is, my tone. You do you.
that's true.
Like you're
Uh,
gonna get a lot from about Matt Paul from the questions that I ask Glenn Clark. Just like
true,
you will get a
true.
lot from Glenn Clark based on the questions he asks Matt Paul.
That's true. So both episodes, you'll be learning about both of us and who
Yes,
we even
absolutely.
are and why we thought we should do a podcast together, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But
Dude, my
anyway,
light is like extra bright today.
it is. It's brighter than normal. Mine's brighter than
Um,
normal, and it's
maybe
still
it's
horrible,
my
but
camera.
maybe.
Um, oh, yeah, that's changing things.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh
there
well.
we go.
Hmm.
I'm now not a shining figure for those watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let us jump right into this. Glenn and I both had long days and long weeks
Yeah.
at work,
Yeah.
and it is
Yeah.
a Friday night, nearing my bedtime. Um,
I didn't know you had one.
I do not have a bedtime for those listening.
Yeah, I don't have a bedtime either,
It's the
but I
weekend.
should.
Woo!
Yeah, woo. That makes me
So
happy when
yeah,
skies are gray.
this is a Glenn Clark here. And my first question for you, Glenn Clark,
Oh
and this
yeah.
is for the audience. I know the answer to a lot of these questions,
Okay,
uh,
gotcha.
um, but
I don't get to shock and surprise you.
no, not much. But we'll probably get to some good convos. I would like to know. The audience would like to know, Glenn. Where were you born and raised? Where do you hail from? If that's
Well,
is that even allowed? Are we allowed to say that stuff?
I think so. I mean, who's
Yeah.
gonna
Just
stop
don't give
us?
them the
Who's
exact
Yeah,
address,
as
I
I was
guess.
born. Well, I don't live there. I don't live like to quote Bugs Bunny. I was born at a very early age. Let's see. Wait, what was the question? Where was I born? Where was I raised?
Where do you hail from?
Uh, I was born in Dallas, Texas, and the first several years of my life, I lived in Garland, Texas. Then I moved to Houston, Texas for a couple of years. I guess like I lived in Garland until about halfway through second grade. Second semester, I moved to Houston until about halfway through fourth grade. Then I moved to Dallas proper and
The Dirty
lived,
D.
yeah, Big Dirty D. And my mother used to like tangent, but kind of not. Like my mother used to like I think her AOL name was Judy Big D. And she meant Dallas because there's some like song, some ancient song she used to sing, like something like "You're from Big D, little A, double L A." I don't know where she got. And it's a
No,
song
everybody
about
calls Dallas the
Dallas.
Big D.
It's Big
Yeah,
D,
yeah,
but it just when it's your screen, it's your handle on the
yeah.
internet. You're people aren't thinking about Dallas because
No, the
everybody,
internet quickly became sexualized.
right? Everything is sexual on the internet,
Right. It
so.
quickly became a way for weirdos to meet and hook up.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Even Mr. Rogers is sexual on the internet. I have no doubt there are people shit sending each other. I almost did I say shitting Mr. Rogers videos? Well, that could be on the internet too.
It
That's
probably is.
right. But anyway, so I lived in Dallas for gosh until we moved here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean,
a
for
couple
those
years ago.
wondering, I still consider everything except Houston, Dallas. Like I
Everything
don't
except
like
Houston,
like like in
even Austin. No,
if I live in
the
Dallas
places I
County and I
lived.
go places, I'm from Dallas.
Right.
Like
And
I
that's
don't
pretty
tell people
much
I'm from Garland.
yeah, because nobody knows what that is.
Yeah, nobody knows what that is. It's always
Um,
weird when people do though.
Yeah, they have to be from here, like from
Yeah.
around here, like to know what Garland is, which is just a suburb of Dallas. Um, just like Houston, which is also a suburb of Dallas. Not really, but um, I think I answered that question. I mean,
No,
do
you
you want to know
did.
more? Like, do you?
No, no, that was perfect. My
Okay,
question was
good.
literally written down as where are you from, where you been? And
Okay. Oh, well, I've been more
so
places than I've lived, but
that's true. And but that's what I meant by where
okay,
you've been
gotcha.
is where have you lived? The
Mhm.
next question is leading right from that. If you could live in any country in the world besides the one you live in now, not saying you hate where you live now,
Right.
but if you could live anywhere for any amount of time, where would you go?
Oh my gosh, I want to travel the world. So it's hard for me to pick a spot that I would just want to live, like another country or
Yeah, yeah. Another, I mean, it could be another state. Just
I mean, if I had to pick a state to live in other than Texas, it would probably be Colorado. I love Colorado. It's just gorgeous. I love the mountains. I love skiing. They have legal weed. I mean, it's a nice state to be in, but um
they got abortions too.
yeah, you can have weed and abortions. You can get high and get an abortion.
Same time.
Like, I mean, you can do that here, but it's against the law or something
Yeah, it's much more
our state
dangerous.
is run by maniacs. Yeah, it's much more dangerous. So,
I know a
like,
guy.
but yeah, Colorado's nice. Other countries, I honestly don't know because, that's something I'm hoping to remedy. That I've only the only other country I've ever been to is Mexico, and just barely. Like, we're talking border town Mexico. So I haven't seen
One you would
like
probably not want to go to nowadays.
right, you wouldn't want to live there for sure. Like so I haven't seen the sights of Mexico, like any of the beautiful things there are to see and do there. I haven't had that experience, but I'm wanting to travel more. So I couldn't really honestly tell you what country I'd like to live in, if not the United States. Because I don't know. Like, like the UK is easy, but that also makes it kind of a boring prospect. Like, I'd love to go visit there, but what would be the point of moving there? Because it wouldn't be that different of an experience,
Oh,
you
I'm sure
know?
it would be incredibly different,
Well, it
but
would
you
be
wouldn't have to learn
different,
another language.
right? It wouldn't be so dramatically different.
You'd need
It would be
subtitles
like
still.
going to stay at your grandma's house. It's like,
Yeah.
it's different, but it's still the same family. And I mean, that's how I'd look at it. I want to go, but it doesn't excite me as much because so much is similar between us. The language, a lot of the culture, a lot is different,
The
but
imperialism.
right, right. Like they do still have the monarchy, which is kind of why we're separate countries, but
Yeah,
um
that's
I
another
mean,
topic.
yeah, that's a whole other topic,
Yeah,
dude. Some of the topics I have for next season. Well,
we'll have a meeting.
yeah, like I know some of my favorites I'm gonna have to really talk you into. You're making me think of
Oh,
some of them now,
jeez.
but
Yeah, I know
but
I've
I
got
will.
like 10 or 12 listed in my
Mhm.
notes here, and they're gonna have to be refined.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. So are mine.
because most of them are things we've said here, and then I just quickly jotted something down and got back to what we were
Right,
discussing
right.
in the current topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so leading into the next one, if you could learn one language instantly, what would you learn? Like no study required, it just gets matrixed into your brain.
Huh. Japanese, because like the other, like French, Spanish, those are things I think compared to Japanese would be way easier for me to actually learn the hard way. But if I
Right.
could just have Japanese matrixed into my mind, because to me, Japanese looks like it's going to take a lot of work to learn, because it is. It is going to
Right.
take a lot of work to learn, especially if you go beyond phonetics. You know,
Yeah, there's like over
like
a
I can learn
thousand
how to
kanji.
say a word, but to write in Japanese and to read in Japanese, oh my God, that is dramatically different from English. Um, but I would love to know every language. Like that's kind of a fantasy of mine, is just to be able to speak numerous languages. I speak one.
You want to
You
be the
know,
Tower of Babel.
that would be great. That would be great. Glen
Right. So
Babel.
so just why Japanese? Like just because it's different and would be hard to learn. What about like practicality?
Well, I mean, Japan is a place that I'd like to go. Um, there's a lot I'd like to see and do in Japan because it's so culturally different. Um, and also, like just, they're kind of an emerging economic power. Like, I mean, it's kind of it's declining a bit, but I don't know. I'm just intrigued by Japan.
They
There's a
are a
lot.
world power
Yeah,
economically.
I know, but it's like they're kind of at a for a little bit there, it looked like they might overtake the United States as far
Right,
as
right.
economic powers. And I'm kind of, like one thing I really enjoy about having been born and raised in the United States, it's kind of, men always think about ancient Rome apparently, but I just think throughout history, I would want to be in the center of the action of like the global story, in the center of history. And I feel like that's where I am in the United States. I feel like I'm at
Pretty
the
pretentious.
center. It is,
I'm
it's
just I'm
very
I'm kidding.
pretentious, but
But
um,
I
and
wouldn't
like I feel
disagree with
like
you either.
if I lived back in antiquity, I would want to be a Roman citizen. Like because
Right,
I'd be in the middle of it all and in the
right.
safest place to observe history, really. Um, because if you're living in the dominant power of your day in that territory, it's a good place to watch everybody. It was like what's happening in Ukraine, for example. Like Russia can't come just walk in on us,
No,
like stuff like that. It's the United States is it's kind of the most secure for the moment, and all empires fall, It's
right.
not going to last forever. And so I'd been eyeballing Japan for a while. I'm like, you know what? If they do rise above the US and like things continue to decline here and go up there, that's where I want to be. And that's where I want my kids to grow up. Should I have kids, like I want this family line to stay in the center of things. So Japan just intrigues me. I like Japan. I like the culture. Um,
They do have open racism though.
well, don't we all? I mean, I mean,
Well, they have like straight up segregation
oh wait,
over
for
there.
real? I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Like what kind
yeah.
of segregation?
It's much
I
more
mean,
chill.
chill
It's
segregation.
Yeah, no, it is much more of the ideal separate but equal, but they do have that, except it's
With
actually
who?
equal with foreigners.
For
They
real?
don't discriminate race necessarily, but it is Japanese and foreigners. Like there are Japanese only bars and clubs and places
Huh.
in Japan, like Japanese only restaurants. And like I said, they
I
do
had
take
no
more of an
idea.
equality, like separate but equal to the actual degree that it is separate but
Uh-huh.
equal. Like they're not going to be like, hey, no foreigners, get lost, buddy. They'll be like, no foreigners here, but there's a nice restaurant down the street that welcomes foreigners.
Well, I mean, if it's not mean spirited, why do it? Like, why separate? Why would you
Cultural
want?
dissimulation.
I see. They're worried about their
The
culture being watered down by, like
watered
how
down, yeah,
America is the melting pot.
melting pot. They
Like
want to
we,
maintain cultural integrity,
uh-huh. I see. Okay, that
and
makes sense to me.
they
So it's
stand on
not,
ceremony a lot.
yeah.
You know, it's ceremonious to have Japanese customs and cultures and present in their
Uh-huh.
day-to-day lives. Like when you go to a Japanese restaurant, you want Japanese etiquette, Japanese everything. You
Hmm.
don't want the American being over there, but like wakarimashita, domo arigato.
Mr.
Uh,
Roboto,
yeah,
because
Mr.
Every damn
You
American
got
goes and
any
makes
Coca
that joke.
Cola? Well, what the hell is this? I asked for Coke, and yeah. So they don't want that when they go out to eat
Okay.
at a nice restaurant. There's no like McDonald's barring foreigners or anything. I'm
Okay,
talking like,
gotcha.
yeah,
It's
they have, because tourism is a large aspect of Japanese economy.
yeah, I was gonna
And so
say.
it but they do have places that don't allow foreigners. Um and people talk about that here and there.
Okay.
About the darker side of the Japanese culture.
I've
And feel free
never
to
heard
correct me
that.
or provide examples showing otherwise in the comments and stuff like that. But
Oh, right.
yeah,
We love to be corrected because
I've
it's
seen
learning.
plenty of that. You know, people living in Japan,
Uh-huh.
like
Interesting.
non
Because
national Japanese citizens.
that's just so fascinating because I don't know how like I've missed that because I watched several YouTubers. Like there's a teacher who lives in Japan and teaches English,
Yep,
and I think
I'm pretty
she's
sure I
pretty
know who you
cool.
talk about. Yeah,
And then there's a Japanese guy who gets on and talks about Japanese culture and if you go to Japan, don't do this, do this, that kind of thing. Like
yeah, totally.
none of these people have ever mentioned the cultural segregation. I think that's interesting.
Well,
Like
it would probably do more to damage their image
oh
than
yeah,
help it.
surely because
Content
especially
creators know what
talking
to say.
talking to foreigners, like
Yeah,
but I would think if you live in Japan and all your friends are native born Japanese people and they're all going to go out somewhere and you have to be excluded, that's where it would start to feel kind of hateful to me. Like that's where it would kind of suck because they can only include you if they don't go do what they wanted to do where they wanted to do it. And if they do go do what they want to do where they want to do it, they have to exclude you.
right,
Um, and that just seems very off-putting to me. That just seems, it just seems wrong. But I understand if it's to preserve their culture, I also understand it. So I don't know. It's
yeah,
just an interesting thing to me that I didn't know about, but I like
right.
knowing
Further
about it.
research required for
Oh
sure.
yeah, definitely.
But anyway, this interview isn't about Japan and their cultural dissimulation.
That's what you thought.
Yeah, right. And yeah, no, I like the answer. And then, I don't want to steal what I'm having to be careful of here is like answering my own questions. Like
Oh, I see.
because
Where you want to
yeah,
chime in.
yeah. And so I have to this is a very unique podcast.
It
Um
is.
yeah, because I mean if I could chime in one thing, if you learn Japanese, you can turn the subtitles off while watching anime.
Hmm. Mhm.
and
Yeah,
have
it's true. Oh, and read Japanese books
yeah,
in like because there's an author I really love whose name I can't say, but Japanese, Bakemonogatari.
yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know if you've read the first book in that series yet,
I read like the first, like I read like half of it before I got distracted.
because I've heard that this author is technically like you just untranslatable. Like,
Right.
and I read this
The
book and
wordplay
it's
doesn't
so
translate.
clever. Like, there's so much wordplay. There's so much stuff where I'm like, you can't do this novel as an audiobook.
Right.
It just
Kudos to the translators.
wouldn't come across. But like, I would love to read it in the original Japanese so I know
Right.
exactly,
And that
read
would
it
take
and
years of
comprehend it.
understanding
Yeah.
because there's like cultural references in there
Uh-huh.
that you just would have to look up to
Right.
understand the significance of.
Oh,
Because
and I
you just read
do. And
over
I,
something and then, but it's actually what it is it's a wordplay from like a quote from a popular like commercial from like,
right.
the early 2000s or something. And it's just like you would
Right.
just read it and you would have
Yeah,
no
it wouldn't
idea
really,
how many
yeah.
layers there were to a single sentence.
Uh-huh.
And
And
yeah,
it's that way with any book, really. Like any book written by an author that's not originally in English, that's been
the Bible.
translated. Yeah, the Bible. Like, oh, my friend Charlotte Deaton used to have this amazing pair of books that were it was the Bible, the books of the Bible, but it was the original like Hebrew and Greek, but under it was the absolute literal translation of each word into English, where they haven't made choices about, okay, how do we rephrase this? And some of them, it could have been two or three different meanings in if you translate it. I can't remember there was a name for like what that was. Um, and I can't remember because I would Google it. I would love that because you can go in and then you can see the raw translation when you get into debates like the Bible. That's one of those things where the translation really screws things up
Right,
because
totally.
people take it so seriously, people fight wars over these things. So it would be
Arguably, it's the
it's
only thing people fight wars over.
pretty much,
like, like
God and
up
oil.
until
God.
recently,
Yeah.
oil's the newcomer on the block. The Bible was the thing we fought about for millennia
Right.
before that.
Right. And so it would be great to be able to look at the raw translation, like what could this mean? What might, has this been mistranslated? You find out a lot of stuff was, a monk making a decision to rephrase something because it made them uncomfortable. Like, you still got to wonder about things like feet, like where the word for genitalia and the word for feet, it's context is my understanding in Hebrew. So when like there's this one story in the Bible where this chick Ruth, like she's a widow and she's got her mother-in-law, right? And they're women in this culture where women are cattle. Like if you don't have a father, a brother, a husband, a brother-in-law to fall back on, you have nothing. So they went and worked in this dude's field, and like the mother-in-law Naomi was like, "Oh, Boaz, he's like the dude, right? I guess it was his field." And she's like, one night she's like, "Okay, Ruth, go and lie at Boaz's feet while he's in bed, and he'll tell you what to do." And then they get married. And I'm like, "Okay, was it really his feet?"
Or was this phallus?
Yeah, exactly. Like, wait, did they just choose feet because they could?
Right.
Like, what makes more sense? I mean, honestly, maybe I have a dirty mind, but they did it. I mean, they did procreate.
Right.
And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, so stuff like that, that's why I would love to learn other languages. I would love to be able to know what
Comprehend the
stuff,
world.
yeah, without it being filtered through a translator.
Right.
I want to
Totally.
comprehend it on my own. Like the same reason I'll watch presidential speeches and congressional hearings. God, it's awful. But at least I'm seeing what people are really saying and who is really saying what
Rather than the
before it's,
headlines.
yeah, before it's translated by the news media. It would
Right,
turn into
totally.
sound bites that could be misleading and often are. They take stuff out of context all the time, but if you watch it in real time, they can't dupe you. They can't, because you know what this person said and you know why they said it and you know where they cut it off and where they said more to make it mean something completely different than the sound bite sounds like it means. So same thing. I want to learn every language. I'm an
Right.
autodidact. I like to be educated. I like to educate myself.
Let's see here. So that got deep,
Well,
as
that's
I
fine.
expected it to. Uh, let's see how deep this one can go.
30
Glenn
feet.
Clark,
Oh, I'm already scared.
what was your favorite childhood TV show?
My favorite childhood TV show. Oh, wait, the
Yeah,
YouTube camera has gone blurry again. Is it better? What?
now it's better.
Okay. I don't know why it does that.
This is
Um,
refocusing.
my favorite childhood TV show. Jeez. Like it's hard to say. Because different periods of my life there were different favorite shows. Like when I
Understandable, especially as a child.
right, right. And like when I was a very small child and my mother was a um housewife and
Fun job.
for yeah,
Maybe
when I
maybe not
was
back then.
young, I don't know. I mean, I was a fun kid. Like
Yeah.
she was good at child raising. She was good with children. Like I learned to read well before I was taught in school. Because and I am going to answer your question. It's just
No, no, it's totally
why
fine.
not go on a tangent? It's all about me. It's all about me today, folks. So,
Yeah.
but she labeled everything and her friends made fun of her because like, not like mean make fun of her, but they thought it was funny that my mother was making labels and putting it on like bookshelf,
Toaster.
toast, exactly everything. She put labels on it and I had to learn to read the labels. And then, one night she caught me in my room under my blanket with a flashlight, little yellow flashlight that I had, and I was reading a book out loud to myself. And this is before I started school. So that's like yeah, so like I don't know where I got off on that tangent, but
Multiple stages in your
right,
childhood.
multiple stages in my childhood.
When you were
So
very young, your mother was a housewife.
that's right. And then I went on a mad tangent about labels. Let's talk about labels. Labels make
Mm.
me itch. No, I'm kidding. Okay, um so right, earliest favorite TV show, it's like it was what mom was watching, you
Ah,
know? And mom was watching reruns from the 60s, and my favorite show for a while there was Bewitched, this show about a married couple. Are you familiar with this show?
not in the slightest.
Okay, Bewitched. So I guess it was really famous in the 60s, maybe the 70s too. I think maybe it was 60s, 70s. Maybe it was only 70s. I have no idea, but I was watching reruns as a child during the day. And so it was about this dude who married a witch, and they were trying to hide the fact that she was a witch all the time. But, she'd do magic things, and she had this mother, Endora, who, that's interesting. I just realized that's a Bible reference, the Witch of Endor. But yeah, Endora was her mother, and she was this meddling mother-in-law who hated the husband, who was just a mere human. Like, I don't know, I just loved that show. Turns out like it's like the gayest thing ever made too. Like, I don't know. I love Bewitched. Like I've thought about like checking it out. Like it's all on DVD or whatever. I don't know where it's streaming, but just to see how I like it as an adult because I know a I guess
Everything went over your head.
preschool, a daycare level child. Yeah, like I loved that show. And then I grew into Land of the Lost, like Sid and Marty Krofft stuff. They were I don't know how do you explain Sid and Marty Krofft? Like they did all these shows that were super weird. Like furries would love these shows. In the modern world,
Oh yeah.
furries and people on acid would love, and stone high people like do drugs, wear costumes, watch Sid and Marty Krofft shows. But Land of the
Sounds
Lost,
like a party.
I'm sure it is. It's like you're sitting there watching HR Puffin stuff, and I've only seen one of that was pre before my time, but Land of the Lost was like this show. They use a lot of stop motion animation, and it was about this dad and his two kids, Marshall, Will, and Holly, on a routine expedition. Met the greatest earthquake ever known, and they went down the rapids and through this portal into this other world, the Land of the Lost. And I was quoting the theme song there at first, but they like, and so there's dinosaurs everywhere in this Land of the Lost. And as a preschooler, I loved dinosaurs. I was obsessed
Yeah.
with dinosaurs. I think that just comes with being born a boy.
Yeah.
But I'm being, girls love dinosaurs too.
Not as
But
much as boys. I'll
right,
die on that hill.
exactly. I
No, I'm just
think I
kidding.
think you're right. I mean, I'll stand there on the hill. I mean, I don't, there's girls who love dinosaurs as much as I did. But my experience was the girls were playing with Barbies. The Glen was playing with dinosaurs.
And Barbies.
What?
And Barbies.
I mean, I would do
I
weird
made
things
I
to
made
Barbies.
the
I would make
yeah, I made the
nooses and
dinosaurs.
hang the
Yeah,
Barbies.
I
Like,
would yeah, and I would make the dinosaurs eat the Barbies.
right, right. We do awful things to Barbies. That's playing with them. But
Yeah.
yeah, so like
Hey,
I
girls did
love
too, all right.
true. Oh gosh, I could tell you stories. Like if you have you seen the Barbie movie yet?
No, I still haven't.
Okay,
It's
we got
still
to
on the
talk about
list.
weird Barbie. Like
Yeah.
whenever you get there, man, that's reality right there. Little girls do weird things to their
Well, before the movie
Barbies.
came out, I there was a ton of posts regarding if the Barbies don't scissor in the movie, it's not accurate.
Right. But anyway, so yeah, I love dinosaurs. I had like a mural. Like I've been hunting down this mural on the internet because I
Yeah, the
want
only
it
Land of the
again.
Lost that I've seen was the remake with Will
Then
Ferrell.
oh, that I haven't seen that one because it looked like it was an abomination.
It
Like
is, but it is a hilarious abomination.
I'll need to check it out at some point. But I'm like,
Yeah.
why make
No, it would be great to sit there and watch it with somebody who actually watched and enjoyed
loved Land of and as an
Land of the
adult,
Lost.
like I picked up season one of that when it came out on DVD and rewatched it. Like, of course, the special effects aren't up to modern standards. We're talking crude pre-Jim Henson puppetry and um stop still animation, which was kind of state of the art for the time it was made for television, But the show's solid sci-fi. And that it even stood out, like people talk about it to this day as standing out in the Sid and Marty Krofft oeuvre, if you will, that it's like a real sci-fi show because people would fall into this portal from all over the place, like you'd meet all kinds of weird people who were also stranded there. They had cavemen. They had lizard people called Sleestack, and one was
Yep.
from the future. They met a guy from the future
Yep,
who
that's
was
in
a
the movie.
Sleestack. The future guy is
Yeah.
sweet. I mean, but it's just these cool concepts, and I found out, as an adult, Star Trek writers were writing for this show from the
Hmm.
original Star Trek, which is legendary for being just such a thought-provoking series. In like, there were Star Trek writers on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the 80s, which I'll come to since you asked me what my favorite show was, and I have to go in periods. But Land of the Lost, man, I was religiously devoted every week when that came on. And I think I was watching reruns. But yeah, I was definitely watching reruns. but they weren't that old, not like Bewitched. Bewitched was way like mom's era. Land of the Lost was pretty much uh in my
Right. It was like,
time.
yeah, it was like me watching Dragon Ball Z. I didn't know what
Yeah,
order I was watching it in, but
exactly. Yeah.
when it came on, I was glued to the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like that. And it's like dinosaurs and oh, they had this little baby brontosaurus named
They have a Chaka.
Dopey Chaka. I was coming to Chaka. Is it Chaka bad? Chaka. This
Yeah, that's in the movie.
freaky looking little caveman kid.
Yeah,
But he
looks
was
kind of like
cool.
Chase.
He does look like Chase, our other roommate.
I think
Like,
we used to call Chase Chaka.
Jesus,
I think
Chaka.
that may have been one of his things.
And what did they call? I think they called him the Pikuni. The Pikuni, maybe. I might be making up words. They didn't
That sounds
say
racist.
caveman. I don't know. I mean, they were great. Because, man, I want to watch that show now. I want to. It's like it's a show I want to show people and see. Like, look, this is great. If you can just look at it from a storytelling perspective, like it's so well thought out. The world is so well crafted. The characters are so compelling. They lived in a cave, like they had to go up this ladder, and there was this local Tyrannosaurus Rex they called Grumpy who would try to eat them and they'd have to if they heard him roaring or attacking another dinosaur, they had to flee and get up into their cave. And he'd like stick his snout in there. Like it was horrifying as a child. I loved it. But yeah, I'm gushing about this show I haven't thought about in a long time. So, just memories are coming out about how much I loved that show. Um, but I mean, there's just so many cool concepts. And, I think my Legends of Nod series takes some inspiration from Land of the Lost. The novels are right, the little pulp fantasy series. It's kind of campy, but like, because they're another universe and people can come into Nod from different time periods of Earth. If you get sucked into Nod, you don't know where on the timeline you're going to land. And I think I got that from probably watching Land of the Lost, where there's just so much stuff in there. It's like Nod's not a dinosaur thing, but there are dinosaurs
It
in
could
Nod.
be.
I haven't gotten there
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
Nod is like anything goes. Anything and everything is there. But I think that the seed that grew into me coming up with stories like that was watching Land of the Lost as a child, where you can go into this parallel world and dinosaurs still exist. Like you can meet a World War II pilot who's crashed his plane, but you're from the 70s and like wearing bell bottoms. Like it just was cool. Like I want to say they met some historical figure who got trapped in the land of the lost.
Socrates,
Was it?
Socrates.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
No, that's Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
But no, so Land of the Lost, and then I mean, you didn't expect this probably to be such a loaded
No, I didn't.
question.
I expected a He-Man and that was it.
I haven't even gotten to He-Man because
Yeah, no, I know.
we haven't even gotten to the
We're at
Smurfs, Matt.
we're at 8 years old.
Right,
Like,
right. No, we're not even at 8 years old. This is preschool, Land of the Lost. But because don't worry, because I'll cut it off before I hit puberty. Like, oh, you asked me childhood shows. I won't get into adolescent shows unless that's
I
another
asked for
question.
a favorite.
Well, but I'm telling you, I don't have one, so I'm telling you the ones that are tied. The ones that were my favorites at different points in my childhood. So then moved on from that to the Smurfs. Um, good Lord, did I
That tracks.
love the Smurfs? I want to know why. Like, why does that track?
Well, because you used to, I don't know, you used to quote Smurfs, I thought.
I did
No,
probably.
no, a lot of your zingers have to do with Smurfs. I can't quote any
Do
because you're
they?
impossible to quote.
That's
But
funny.
you reference Smurfs quite a bit. Like as a pop culture thing, Smurfs
Uh,
appear to be much more further into the forefront
for
of your,
me, yeah,
yeah,
they
than
are.
for me. I haven't I don't think I've ever watched an episode or it was a show,
It
right?
was a show. Like
It
it's
was a
well
show. And
over
now they've
here.
made movies
Right,
like
right.
recently, like
Uh-huh.
2017, 2019, 2020, stuff like that.
Yeah, I
Like
want to say there's
3D
three or
animation.
four movies. But
Because I've only seen memes from those.
I've only seen the first one, surprisingly. Like, I want to see the rest of the Smurf movies. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But if I were a child, I would be forsaking God to go see those movies. That would
Right.
if my parents were trying to make me go to church, I'd be like, no. If I had to choose between God and the Smurfs,
Yeah, I mean that would
childhood
be tough for
Glenn.
me. Anything to get me out of church as a kid. The only thing
Right,
they got
'cause
me with was donuts.
no joke. Like when you're a child, that's it. It's like I have to wear this uncomfortable suit. Like I had to dress up to go to church as a child.
No, not me,
And that
man.
that is the sole reason I hated it, other than having to sit there,
No, I woke up in my
listen to a dude
Saturday play
talk.
clothes.
Uh-huh.
I was halfway out the door if my mom yanks me back in to change out of my soccer uniform from the day before. It's like, take your fucking shin guards off. Like, you slept in those? Like, yeah, I
Oh,
mean, I was wearing them.
right.
It's
Right, because you're a kid. You're a little boy. You don't
yeah,
care.
yeah,
Sleep in your soccer clothes.
yeah.
But
She was lucky if I took my cleats off.
right. Oh, but anyway, so the Smurfs, yeah, like honestly, like it was just so imaginative, the show, and it's based on a comic from Germany, I'm pretty sure. The cartoonist was Peo.
Oh, I see the anti-Semitism now.
The anti-Semitism?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that a thing? I know, like,
No,
there's some
it
conspiracy
probably
theory
is.
about like the Smurfs being communist propaganda, and that Smurf stands for Socialist Men Under Red Father. Because Papa Smurf was their leader and he wore red. The rest of them wore
Yeah.
white. So like, I mean, it's a very weird society. Like I actually kind of lampooned them in my novel Metronomes. Because like Smurfs, like the word Smurf has so many meanings. Like they just stick it into sentences and context tells you what Smurf means
What the
when they
Smurf are you
use it.
talking about?
Right, exactly. When I was a teenager, I was like, hey, Smurf, wait, where's the camera? Smurf you with my pinky. And like that, everybody started doing that. Because
Oh, you started
Smurf,
that?
apparently, like,
Yeah,
because
no,
I
it still
made
goes
that
on
up.
today.
Does it?
No, I'm
Wait,
just kidding.
outside of my circle, that would be weird. But like anybody listening from my teen years will remember that. But like yeah, so Smurf meant whatever it needed to. Like, oh, I'm gonna Smurf a new picnic basket, or what are you
That
smurfing?
sounds
Like
sexual.
it can be. They never used it that way, obviously, as far as I'm aware. I should rewatch it as an adult. I rewatched season one and figured out Smurfette had a penis. But
Ah,
as an
yeah.
adult, like, because real Smurfs, right? There aren't
Right.
any female Smurfs in nature, but I'm not going to get into that tangent.
Oh God, Smurf
Just
lore.
right, like I'm
Smurf
just
Smurf physiology.
right. Just what in me watching cartoons as an adult
Smurfology.
from my childhood, like it's dangerous.
In my experience,
But
it's just always been disappointing.
with me, I just apply too much logic to it that the writers were not thinking about. But anyway, so like I figured out. So Smurfette is transgender. He-Man is gay. Like I figure all these things out watching cartoons as an adult that I watched as a child obliviously. And let's not even talk about Bugs Bunny because I'd go on. Um, but Bugs Bunny is a queer icon. But yeah, so the Smurfs, I loved that show. I wanted to be a Smurf. They lived the life like those socialist men under Red Father.
Yeah, they had ideal communism going on.
They did, because like they'd go to work and they did what needed to be done. Like they're all hammering away on a bridge and just singing. They always sang. But but I was getting to like what how it inspired this group of people called the Meefs in Metronomes that are just freaks. They're just freaks. Like they're gnomes, but they're not like the other gnomes in my book because they're this one because Papa Smurf, right? He's the only Smurf his age. And he's like the only old one. he raised all the other ones. There's like 100 of them. And like, so what, adult think that. Where did they come from? What's Papa Smurf getting up to? Like, so the Meefs are just this freaky dude, this freaky shaman gnome who went rogue, invented his own language that's a language of inflection. The only word they say, they take Smurf to an extreme. Only word they say is Meef.
Mm.
But inflection tells you
Meef,
what they're
meef.
saying. Yeah.
Meef. Meef,
Meef.
meef, meef.
Yeah, it's messed, but see, it's like,
That sounds fun as a writer.
yeah, and the whole idea is that it's the Smurfs, but completely jacked up. Like where he actually went around impregnating gnomes and other tribes and kidnapping the children and like
Jesus.
doing like, yeah, that's what the Meefs are, and they're not a big part of the story. They're just kind of a little side adventure that I found humorous just to kind of make fun of the Smurfs lovingly. To
Right.
lovingly yet horrifically make fun of the Smurfs when I'm writing about little people who live in the forest. And probably that's where that seed was planted of just people who are small. The Smurfs are bigger than my gnomes. The Smurfs, as all scientists know, are 3 apples high, but they're still small enough that the whole world looks so different to them. And that's one of the things that was fascinating to me was the concept of, you're 3 apples high. A human's desk is a magnificent playground. Like everything that's just size for us is giant to these people. Um, but yeah, and it was also kind of my first introduction to the fantasy genre of storytelling. Like there were some really good stories as I remember it on the Smurfs. Like they went places, they did things, and like magic happened. It was just great. And there was a great like they all loved each other. They were all friends. There was no Smurf that everyone hated. Like there were asshole Smurf, like there was grumpy Smurf, there was lazy Smurf, but people didn't hate these guys. They just accepted their personalities and worked with them. There was Jokey Smurf who got on everyone's last nerve, and I met the woman who did his voice. Like I saw her in person anyway, who also did the voice of Rocky the Squirrel on Bullwinkle.
Hmm.
Um, can't remember her name off the top of my head. Starts with a J, pretty sure, which probably means it doesn't. Um, but yeah, that was a cool moment in life when I got to see the voice of Jokey Smurf and Rocky the Squirrel in person. Probably in the early 90s. But yeah, so the Smurfs, and then we get to the answer you were expecting, which was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Um, and that, that was the later part of my childhood, I guess. That's when I was moving. I'd moved to Houston right before that show hit. And like it's funny because I at first I wanted nothing to do with Masters of the Universe. My dad uh was trying to get me into it because maybe he was just kind of intrigued by these action figures you see in a toy store window in a display. And I was like, why would I want a bunch of fat guys, naked fat guys? Like, why would I want to play with that? Like, that's not interesting to me. But then it became interesting to me. And I don't think it was because of the cartoon. The cartoon hadn't come on yet. Just something about it finally intrigued me. Um, but then the cartoon, when we moved to Houston, like everyone was watching this show. All the kids were watching He-Man. Um, like back then it just kind of blew up. But for me, I think again, it was like the Smurfs, just the kind of the imaginative aspect of it all, the kind of anything goes in this world. Like in my mind, I kind of distinguish fantasy realms. Like there can be a Tolkien kind of fantasy realm for high fantasy, but I would call Masters of the Universe um an Oz like fantasy world where it's like you have pretty much anything. You can have talking scarecrows in Oz, right? You can have talking lions, you can have tin men, like TikTok guys, like robots,
Right,
like
no
every
explanation necessary.
yeah, no explanation necessary, exactly. And if the explanation is presented, it doesn't have to fit like the laws of physics as we know it, and Masters of the Universe was an Oz-like world where there's magic, there's technology, and put it together, and none of it makes sense, and it's fantastic.
Right, you've
Because,
got castle spaceships,
right,
spaceship castles,
like,
anything goes.
yeah, like He-Man can fly up on a Wind Raider into space somehow, and there's no like, and he
Spacesuit.
can he can move the moon just standing on this. He can just push it, like stuff like that. But he's the most powerful man in the universe, so there's magic. You can just say, "Oh yeah, magic." Um,
Easy.
Same reason his sister's skirt never flies up when she's jumping around in space and in the air, like
It's made of
magic.
aluminum.
It's aluminum. She-Ra has an aluminum skirt. But yeah, that was just and it was morality tales. It was like the thing about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the original, that really struck me was I think the morality, like the ethics, the philosophy that was, that it was intended, like Mattel made this toy, right? And they're trying to get stores to pick it up before it comes out. They have to go make presentations. And some of the like Toys R Us, all the big names of the day were kind of reluctant because Mattel missed out on Star Wars. They turned it down. Everyone thought Star Wars was going to be a flop, and movie merchandise didn't really sell back then. It was more the merchandise was a commercial for the movie. It wasn't expected to become a phenomenon in itself, which Star Wars toys did after that movie came out, and then Mattel was kicking themselves for saying no to Star Wars and frantically trying to find a foothold in the boy toy market. So the boy toy market,
Hello.
right? And so they come up with this leather daddy named
Producer
He-Man, and
clip that.
right. So like
We don't have a producer.
so the dude is giving this presentation and they're kind of pooping on it. Like the toy store executives are like, "Well, what even is this?" He's like, "Well, we have a comic book coming out," which they did. And then they're still not sold. And he's like, "Well, did I tell you about the TV show we're doing, the cartoon, the animated series?" That wasn't in the works at all. They had no, so he had to make a phone call after this. Hey, toy stores are interested,
We
but
need a TV
yeah, we
show.
need a TV show. So Mattel, they went to Lou Scheimer was the last, Filmation was his company, the last American animation studio um to stay in business. I think they folded in the early 90s because everyone was shipping animation overseas for financial reasons. But they got him to do the show, and he'd done things like um Fat Albert. I don't know if you're familiar with Fat Albert.
I am.
Okay, Bill Cosby show. Again, it was about life lessons and morality. That was kind of Lou Scheimer's thing. Um, was making the shows he did not just mindless entertainment, but quality. And Mattel would love to have had just a pure toy commercial. That's not what they got. And sometimes they were really frustrated by that. Um, because he would say no to things. Like he wouldn't put the character Stinkor, who the toy actually stank, in his cartoon because he's like, no, it's just a fart joke. I'm not gonna put that in there. But like
Uh,
they had, like I said before, some of the writers on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe had written for Star Trek. They weren't dumbing it down. Like there were really quality stories that were really compelling um moral lessons. Like they put this, and this dude, this big barbarian with a sword, did no violence. Like, I mean, sometimes they cheesy lines like "I'm not too crazy about people who hurt trees." Like He-Man was a hippie, and he had this sword, and like he never stabbed anyone. Um, so like I guess what drew me in was that just these they were giving me powerful stories. Um, 5 days a week. It was also the first show to do that. Like they pitched it as a new rerun because they were going to do 13 weeks worth of 5 day a week shows for season one. Never had been done before. So we came home
Hasn't
from
been done
school.
since.
He-Man was on. It had like all the other people tried to catch up in that era. Um, like G.I. Joe, Transformers. Like
Hmm.
Transformers started out weekly, but then He-Man hit and they're like, make a whole bunch more episodes for season two so we can put it on weekdays. But Transformers is another compelling thing that should have just been a toy commercial, but was something far more. But same era as He-Man, you asked me favorite. He-Man was my favorite of that era. Like I remember one episode, like He-Man thought he killed a dude. Like that, they had powerful episodes, and he like quit. He like was like, I swore I would never take a life when I took on this power, and I accidentally killed this guy because I was reckless. Like a child is watching this, 6-year-olds are watching this. It's like He-Man has committed a grave sin. Like he's choosing to let go of that power because he's abused it. Like just stuff like that. They had hard hitting stuff. They also had cheesy, weird, crazy stuff that didn't make any sense. And just the combination just fed my imagination. So it was I almost said it was child porn. Like it was porno for a child mind. Okay, I have to learn new words. I have to learn new things to compare
Yeah,
it
you
to.
can't say that, Glenn.
Like it made your brain tingle. I don't know.
Right.
You
It's
know,
it's stimulated the old
it was
cerebral cortex.
stimulating. Yeah, that's there you go.
Uh, yeah.
But
It made your
okay,
soft
so
brain hard.
right, right. It made you hold aloft your magic sword.
Right. And
Anyway,
and now kids are watching Star Wars, The Clone Wars, where they see
right.
the brutal deaths of clone troopers every episode.
Oh, geez, and I love Clone Wars, but that wasn't my childhood.
No, no.
Star Wars was,
I
but
mean
it
you
wasn't
are
my.
kind of a child,
Well, my
but
inner child is alive and well, and I take
yeah.
that with me as a writer.
Yeah.
I never go to the movies that I'm not 8 years old. Like I'm a traitor to my generation. Like they're all ticked off about anytime they update the special effects in Star Wars, Gen X gets all pissed off. And I'm like, well, why didn't they fix this too? And that's cool. And I like that edition. And I like,
Dude,
you
I
know,
saw a fan film
uh,
fixing of Obi-Wan Ben's confrontation with
oh no, I saw
Vader,
that.
and it was spectacular.
It was great. And
It was
see,
spectacular.
if George Lucas had done that, I would have loved it if he changed
Hmm.
that fight.
Where like they have this whole fight throughout the halls of
Death Star.
the Death Star,
Yeah.
and then it ends with them in that shot in
Hmm.
front of the closing door, where the whole fight took place as we know it,
Right.
basically.
Right.
And then he offers, himself to the become the living force.
Right.
And but like there
Gosh,
was a
yeah.
large buildup where they're doing flips and spins and blade locking and
Like
oh
they do
god,
in
it
the
was
prequels and
yeah.
sequels. Like, the lightsaber fights we got when the special effects caught up to George Lucas's
Hmm.
imagination. You
Yep.
know, so I would have been fine with him making that change. It's his art. I look at Star Wars as um true cinema, like the first six films and even the Clone Wars, because the creator of that story, he was an indie filmmaker. It was his vision. It wasn't a corporate let's make money kind of thing. He made tons of money, but that's not what it was about. Like when he did Clone Wars, he said, even if this show fails, we're doing 100 episodes. We're gonna tell this story because that's what he cared about. He didn't care. He didn't care if the prequels flopped, which they didn't. They made billions at the box office, but he expected The Empire Strikes Back to flop. He expected the original Star Wars to flop. He expected Revenge of the Sith to flop because it was too dark. But that was his vision. That was the story he wanted to tell. And it was for children, which I respect. Like the target audience for Star Wars is 15 years old.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a good age. Like the target audience for most things you see on TV is 15 years old. The news, you know, it's aimed at 15-year-olds.
It's aimed at 50
Well,
year
except
olds
for
with
Fox
15-year-old
News. Like,
minds.
yeah, now I think the news has gotten different, but it used to be everything on TV was generally aimed at that age group to get them to be excited about or understand it anyway,
Yeah, no,
comprehension
I mean,
wise.
in my travels throughout the world, I have witnessed a general comprehension level of a 15-year-old,
Right,
but
right.
that's neither here nor there.
True. Well, I mean, it is. It's here and it's there. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I feel like I might have answered that question
Yeah, I think
because
so.
by the time I got out of He-Man, I was getting into being a teenager, and
Yeah, no, that's not childhood.
yeah, not childhood, so we have to cut it off. And then these
Yeah.
things get weird anyway.
Yeah, they
And
do. I mean, they got weird as soon as you mentioned He-Man. Um, because
no, I have
He-Man
to tell.
is literally a leather daddy.
Right, no, one more He-Man thing because our friend Zach he took there was a meme out of an old He-Man mini comic, and there was one of his friends, one of the characters, and there's a documentary where the creators of He-Man talk about how they got drunk and went across the street and came up with this crap, like these characters. So there was a dude named Fisto who had a big fist, right? And so like,
Genius.
yeah. And so the mini comic, they edited the dialogue in the bubble, but Zach didn't know that. So he sent me a screenshot. It's like Fisto's wounded, He-Man's like beat up the bad guys and saving him, and Fisto's in the meme, he's like, He-Man, I tried, I fisted them, and I fisted them so much, I fisted them until I couldn't fist them anymore. Zach was like, what kind of crap were you into as a child? And I'm like, no, it's true. It's all screwed up. He-Man is a gateway drug to becoming a leather daddy. Like, it's true.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but
Sheesh, He-Man.
anyway, yeah, question answered. I like magic and weird stuff and dinosaurs. I like Bewitched, Land of the Lost, The Smurfs, and He-Man. There you go.
Alrighty. I can, I wrote these questions down and I was gonna reorder them, but then I was like, I'll just reorder them in my mind
Uh-huh.
with where the conversation has gone.
Good idea.
Um, but so here we go. Um, if you could be transplanted into any as a main character into any fantasy world, where would you go?
Oh my
Now you only get one. You
goodness.
have to pick one.
Oh, I know. Like that's fair. Let's see. Any fantasy world.
And I'm talking like, you get some of the you get the abilities of where you go. Like you're not just going to be a background character in Masters of the
I,
Universe if you were
I'm
to
gonna
pick this.
be like
You're going to be a main
a
character.
protagonist or a
Yeah,
very
protagonist
close.
level. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
In my
Oh
mind, I was going
gosh.
more like not the protagonist, but somebody that could support it. Like not to change the story essentially.
Right.
Like if you were to pick Star Wars, you wouldn't be Anakin, but you would be a
Chewbacca.
conscripted into a religion,
I would be Jar Jar. No.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I see what you're saying. Like
yeah,
I'd be
you would be a Jedi,
a
you
very
know.
active participant in that world.
Yeah,
I wouldn't just be someone who lives there and goes, "Oh, look, a Jedi."
right. Yeah, let me get back to my poor man's job working on
Right.
starships in the lower underbelly of Coruscant.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, that's a good question because I've thought about this, and I guess I won't use any of my writing stuff because I feel like that's exactly what I do. Like
Right, true. You
I
have to.
plug into and live in those worlds as those characters. So if it was someone else's fantasy world, and I've thought of this, and I don't know, because you think Star Wars, but then you look at it and it's like the Middle East of science fiction. It's
Yeah.
like these people are always at war. It would be a horrible place to actually live, even as a Jedi. It's like people are always dying around you. It's dangerous. You'd always be stressed out, I think.
Well,
Be
there's no
like,
such thing as a utopia.
true, but I mean, let's talk about the Smurfs. But
Yeah, I mean,
let's
you can
talk
go
about
be a
those
Smurf if you want to be
let's
a
talk about
Smurf.
those socialist men living under Red Father. Because I mean, He-Man as well. Same thing. It's like it's fun if I'm watching it from another world and not having to
Right.
live there. But I mean, how much do these people have to work out? Like to maintain these physiques. I'm trying like let's look at
Yeah, no,
oh, his head fell off.
the whole time you were talking about He-Man, I just saw you lovingly glancing around your desk.
Yeah, because it's covered in them. Like this is a love that has followed me well into adulthood. But I mean, how much do these guys have to work out every day? That would be
No, they're
exhausting,
just built
right?
like that.
They're born that way. It's
Yeah, those
crazy.
mothers are insane. They're
Right.
pushing out beefcakes.
Right. For real. Like they're all built like Schwarzenegger. So it's like
Yeah,
in your
prime
downtime,
Schwarzenegger.
what are you doing? You're working out, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe it's the gravity of that planet. But again, it's like, yes, you have magic and wonder all around you, but so do dudes named Skeletor who probably aren't as funny if they're killing you. Like if they're conquering your realm or trying to take
Right.
over the actual entire universe. Like, I don't think I'd want to live there either. So, I don't know. Like, one fantasy world. I mean, I don't know. Okay, it's kind of a tie right now in my head, and I'm sure there's so many worlds out there to choose from.
There are.
But thinking, I'm thinking Star Trek. Like I couldn't choose between Smurfs and Star Trek, but Smurfs, it's like you have to deal with weirdos in the forest who want to eat you or turn you into gold. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Star Trek, it's like I'm still human. I mean, I guess I don't have to be.
Perhaps. You're humanoid.
Yeah. And it's like stuff happens in Star Trek, but I guess just the idea, like to me, it's kind of like the risk of being an explorer. Like hundreds of years ago, taking off to the Americas, the unexplored by the Western world, like people we've never met. Let's not get into the exploitation that happened
Right,
after
right, right.
that,
No, we're not
but it's
going there. We're
just
going for the sheer exploration.
the adventure of it, the
Yeah.
facing the unknown, charting the unknown, like Lewis and Clark, like I mean that kind of thing is great. And to do that all over like that with a warp drive, and even though you're gonna meet bad guys out there,
Right. The
like
excitement of the last frontier.
right, exactly. The final frontier.
Yeah, you're not
Like,
facing the Sith
right, there aren't
in a
Sith. Yeah,
never ending struggle.
right,
You're facing the
exactly.
unknown.
Yeah, and bad guys like one thing about Star Trek that I think is cool is that when they do a new like generation, they make sure to change things. And that was the original creator's vision too. Like you have the Klingons were the big bads for the original Star Trek, but you get to Star Trek The Next Generation. It's a tenuous piece, but there's peace. There's a Klingon on the Starship Enterprise as an officer. Like they made a point to it's an idealistic future and it's utopian.
Right.
Um,
Star Trek
there's
is about as utopian as fantasy gets.
right, exactly. And I love that. It's like Earth. is a paradise. And that's the kind of future I want, you know. It's what I think it's about what we can achieve if we put our minds to it, the good that we can do as humans. Like if we can overcome our greedy, selfish nature, like we could go out and just really explore our own potential. Um, and that's I think what I that's what I love about the Star Trek universe is that it's very optimistic. And even though they, you know, and even like the Borg is another big bad. That was the big bad for the next generation. These cyborgs that had been assimilated by this hive mind kind of thing, and they were terrifying. They would assimilate whole planets, turn them into Borg, and they'd just be part of the hive mind. They'd be drones, you know, but they eventually, in the modern era of Star Trek, they've kind of made a peace with the Borg. They've think everything people evolve, and I love that it's like Star Trek isn't a stagnant world. It's constantly evolving and it's always optimistic. It's always like you think the bad guys are bad guys, but they're people, right? They have the same potential for good and peace that humans have. So I think that's the one I'd pick. I'd pick Star Trek because sometimes there are wars, but it's kind of like so that we have that here. It's not a
Right.
war torn. It's not about war. And when it is about war, it's not. It's about humanity. It's about um the best of humanity
Right.
triumphing over
It's a
everything,
bit, yeah,
pretty
it
much.
seems I've never watched a single second of Star Trek, but from all the
Mhm.
descriptions I've gotten from you, it seems like a sort of a large euphemism for the potential of peace.
Yes. And just yeah, just
Like
human
it's
potential in general. And like
right.
you once accused me of
Yeah,
having a boner for human potential.
you're a whore.
Oh yeah, and it's
Yeah, yeah,
true.
yeah,
And
a
so
whore for
that
human potential.
uh-huh.
I'm gonna get you a trophy one day that reads "a whore for human
Oh,
potential."
please do.
Yeah, and but yeah, no, that's a very Glenn answer,
Oh,
and
good. I'm glad I didn't steal it from anybody.
yeah. Um, oh, let me look at my little list here. Uh, where can I take that one? Uh,
To space.
yeah, right. Um, but let's see here. Yes, so you're a whore for human potential. You pick Star Trek as your fantasy world of choice.
Mhm.
Um,
If I had to live in one, you know, that doesn't mean it's my
right,
favorite. It's one of them, but
right. If Glenn Clark had to participate in the events that go forth,
yeah.
not a bad choice. Me personally, I'd pick Attack on Titan. No, I'm just kidding.
Holy
Um,
crap. Why don't you just move to Ukraine? Like
well,
the
why don't I just shoot myself in the head?
right, jeez. No, that's one world I would just absolutely not want to live in
Right, because
as much as I enjoyed that story.
if you're not a
Yeah.
protagonist, screw you. And if you are, good luck.
Screw you too. Like
Yeah,
if you are the protagonist, you can go to hell. Just
literally.
oh my goodness.
No, that would be a horrible pick. Like I see those memes from time to time that are like, you are now teleported to the last show you were watching.
Oh gosh.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
I just got done watching Attack on Titan.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm not gonna do well. Um,
Oh.
yeah, no, the rumbling happens. I'm done for
Mm-mm.
because
Yeah.
I've long moved out to the remote part of the woods on Paradis,
Right.
and now I just get stomped. But it was probably a pretty good life up until then.
Hopefully. Gosh. Oh, that would be a
Definitely
horrible world to live in.
don't want to be a scout soldier. Um,
No.
but let me see here. So I don't really have a good segue into another question.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine.
I can go with this one, playing off of the transplant to a fantasy world.
Uh-huh.
Um, if you could, what is, and I did a couple slashes here. What is one piece of media, as in, what is one movie, a book, or a video game that you could play for the first time again, if you could? Like read a
Oh.
book for the first time again, or watch a movie for the first time again. Like erase your mind of it and you sit down and watch it again and experience it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And just be surprised, like,
Yeah, just
no, I am your
you
father. What
right. Yeah.
the?
Experience that
He's
again for the
lying.
first time.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, my answer may surprise you because it's kind of like there are certain first times in life that
Giggity.
yeah. I mean, that would be one where it's like I don't think I'd want to have another first time,
Yeah.
like because you don't know as much. Like I think
Right.
like it's almost like every time you reread a book, you're reading it for the first time for the 32nd time. In a way, it's like you're getting
Right.
something
No, I
completely
totally get
new
it. I totally
out
get
of
it.
it. And same
Yeah.
with movies. And like there are favorite films and favorite books that I love to go back to because I have read them and I can get so much more out of them because I already know where things are going and I'll pick up details that I missed before. Like I don't know how many times I've read Jonathan Livingston Seagull, or
Right.
it's like there are books like that where it's, or, like I love to reread books because it's like a new experience every time you reread a book. And movies. I love to rewatch movies. Same thing. Like I'll just be able to look at it from a different angle. But the
Pay
first
attention to a
time
bit
it's
different part
like,
of the screen.
yeah.
Pay
And
attention
like,
to the setting more.
hmm but the
No,
first time I watch a film or read a book, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I can't really focus on every little detail. It's like I'll miss things and not know I'm missing them because I'm like, I don't know what happens next. I guess it's like I'm distracted by the plot, is I guess a way to look at it.
right. Totally.
So, and that's not a bad thing, but it's like I don't want to do that again with a film or a television series.
You're sort of
However,
learning the language.
yeah, exactly. But I think if I could do one of the things you presented for the first time again, it would be a video game. I think I'd want to play the original Legend of Zelda
Ah,
because that was such a journey of discovery. Like, and it was fun, like not knowing what's going on. It was fun not having to figure it out, having to put the puzzles together. Like, I think video games is where I would enjoy because I've done that. Like I've erased video games. I've erased my Skyrim character a couple of times to start over because it's fun to
right.
start from the beginning. And Zelda games, like I love starting over and having to, after, a while of not playing a game and having to put the puzzle together again. And it is like, and it's kind of frustrating that I already know some things. Like in a video game to me, when I play it again, it's frustrating knowing where it's going. Um, so it's not that way with films or books for me. It's comforting and it adds to my experience knowing where we're going. But video games, because it's kind of like with a video game, there's a different agenda, you know? While there may be a compelling story involved,
You're actively a part in it.
right. And so it's way more fun. Like, because I don't replay a lot of video games, like, unless they're mindless things like Pac-Man, you
Right.
know,
Totally.
like, but something where there's like a world you're in and there's, like Zelda. And Zelda was the first, like, big world video game and you could save it, right? You couldn't do that
Right.
before. It's like you have 3 lives. Do what you do your best.
Play until your mom says go outside.
Right, pretty much. Um, but Zelda, it's like there's maps and like you can have all these different artifacts and put them up in your little a butthole or wherever he puts all
Yeah,
that stuff. Like, where does he
magic
carry
bag,
that stuff? I don't know.
prison
Like,
wallet,
Yeah, Link's walking around with rafts and flutes and medicine up his prison wallet,
masks,
masks, like all this stuff, swords, bows, and arrows.
bombs.
Like,
Well, you do get a
yeah,
bomb
he
bag. You
does.
can't use bombs till
Okay,
you
that's
actually
true.
get the bomb bag.
That's true. And a heart container you need, but where do you put that?
Yeah, in your
Prison
heart.
wallet. In your Yeah, I guess so.
You
But
swallow it.
I have started Zelda over a number of times. Even like I got that NES game. Like I played Zelda 1 and 2, and I was on the third one. The one from Super Nintendo, Link to the Past. But
Yep.
then life happened. I got distracted.
Right.
But there's still there. It's just the whole not knowing what's coming in a video game is great. Like just not know because it's a challenge. That's how I see a
Right.
video game. It's a challenge. And that's what I love the most about the games that I love is the challenge. So, yeah, that's what I'd pick.
Nice. Nice. No, and if I could just comment on
You may
the
not. Oh, I'm
the
kidding. Go for
rereading
it.
or rewatching of
Yeah.
movies, television
Yeah.
shows, books, and what have you. I will say that you could make an argument for to begin the journey of rewatching them again, because I do think eventually you will have read Jonathan Siegel enough
Oh,
times.
maybe.
And you probably are pretty close to having reread it. But I think there's something about written word too
Uh-huh.
that it's not easy to memorize because it is like written rather than
Yeah.
visual.
Right,
And so
right.
it's not as easy to recollect every single detail. So yeah, rereading a book is powerful
Uh-huh.
because it's easy to forget those details.
Right. Whereas in a video game, you're immersed and it's visual and you kind of
Yep. You
feel it.
remember
Like you
you
have
remember
that
being
tension
here. Yeah.
that because you're like, I don't want to die. I don't want to fall in this hole. I don't want to get killed by
Yeah.
this monster. And like, but
When you've played it 3 times, you're just like, okay, all I
yeah,
gotta
it's
do
like
here is back it up here and then put
mm,
this there, then that's done, and okay, then the
yeah,
whole dungeon's done
exactly. You know
in
where
in
all the
10 minutes.
secret doors are. You
Yeah.
know
And
where the map lives in your head.
yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
And movies are kind of the same way. I think the most fun to probably redo is probably the written
Hmm.
because it's the hardest to
Right.
recall.
Oh, I
And then
agree. I
and then
agree.
next would be movies.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, I've seen The Sixth Sense a lot. It would be cool to see it
Right.
again for the first time. It was cooler
Right, because
watching
you
it the
don't know.
second time.
True.
But then after
Because
the
you know
third
what's up and you
time,
can see how they pulled it off.
yeah, you can see how
Like
they
that's
did
a
it,
movie that was designed to be watched at least twice. And
at
it's two
least.
different movies.
Right, totally.
Like the first time you see it, it's a different movie from the second time you see it.
Yep. And there is an anime movie that I do need to still watch. It's actually two movies.
Hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's from two different perspectives. It's like the same movie,
Hmm.
but told from a different frame of reference. And
Interesting.
it's like a weird romance thing. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. Either one of them.
Uh,
And you can watch them in either order. But no, and so yeah, I definitely feel you on the video game thing. I mean, that's a large criteria for the value of a video game
hmm.
is its replayability. Is
Yeah.
like, can you play this once and then play it again?
Yeah. Or will you be bored?
Will you be bored as soon as you start up another
Yeah.
playthrough?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, good answer. Good answer. And yeah, it wasn't expected.
Mm.
Because I was totally thinking book. You said the Luke, I'm your father thing. I was like, oh, he's just gonna go with that.
Oh no, because I was just thinking of what would be what was exciting or unexpected, but it's like, yeah, I've explained myself.
You have.
Glad I
Backtracking
could surprise you.
slightly. Um,
Hmm. To the chicken thing that
no, not to the chicken thing. We're
okay,
never going back to the chicken thing.
we just
I'm vegan,
did.
bro.
All right, all
No,
right.
but I hopefully I don't regret this one. This won't turn into a 40-minute conversation. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Uh,
I'm a
no,
loquacious fellow.
what was your favorite and least favorite school subject?
Oh, interesting. I have to think. Let's see.
You have to do
School
that in school.
subject. Yeah, yeah, true. I mean, it's because there's so many different there's elementary school, there's high school, there's college where you have different subjects. So is that
All of that's fair game.
all
Yeah, all of that's
encompassing?
fair game.
Okay. Uh
You
oh,
could even narrow it down to like a particular year. I loved this class, and that's the most I've
yeah.
ever loved a subject.
Yeah.
And then this
Okay.
year,
Okay.
like I hated seventh grade science.
Yeah.
Science sucked in seventh grade.
Well, you literally just answered that question. I hated seventh grade science.
Well, then
So,
you and I share that then, because that was not a hard thing for me to recollect.
like my teacher was an asshole. Like he just God, I hated that class. Like I remember one time I went to my friend Arash's apartment um in seventh grade because we went to the same school in seventh grade. And I mentioned something like that class came up and I said, I would rather kill myself than go to that class. And they were all just horrified that I'd said such a thing. And I'm like, seriously, go to this class. To listen to this guy be a dick for like an hour. God, I hated that guy. I'm not even gonna say his name. He was such a jerk.
He's probably, in prison by now.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Like, cause I don't know like how old those people were. I don't know
Right.
how many of my teachers are just
No, dude,
I hope
not to get
none
off
of
on a
them.
personal tangent, but I was just a horrible student.
Oh, I was too in
My
seventh grade.
my seventh grade science teacher was doing her damn best. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
She passed me out of
Pity.
acknowledgement. Yeah, out of acknowledgement that I was just
Pity
not doing her
pass.
work.
Yeah.
She was like, all the work you do is an A, but you don't do enough of it.
Right.
Like we had this massive like science project that we were supposed to have been working on, and I had things happening at home
Mm-hmm.
to where when I got home I went to my room and the computer was not in my room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was not doing that massive project. So she would do checkup periods. We every Friday, it was like a 6-week project. It was supposed to be like a
Yeah.
thesis.
Uh-huh.
And so every Friday she'd check on her work, and she'd be like, Matt, where's yours? I was like, I didn't do it. And but yeah, she looked like she was getting beat on at home.
Right.
Like
Oh wow.
she was a petite little like you said, I couldn't tell ages when I was 13,
Uh-huh.
but she was in her 20s, had to
Mm-hmm.
be.
Okay.
And she had the biggest bags under her eyes,
Oh.
like she was like not sleeping well and just looked like if she wasn't addressing the class, like as soon as she stopped talking to us in her teacher voice, straight frown, like
Mm-hmm.
straight back to reality
Mm-hmm.
and her normal face. And I was like, she looks like she's got it rough. I feel terrible about making her worry about me,
Mm-hmm.
but she should just stop doing that. And yeah, but seventh grade science, horrible, awful. I hated the lighting in the science lab. It was
Uh-huh.
like a prison. those
Right.
fluorescents above me, and like the shades pulled shut on the windows all the time.
Oh, wow.
And
That's like my sixth grade science class, which I also hated. And again, it was the teacher. Like,
yeah,
and then, I think eighth grade science, like, no, I hated science class and I
yeah.
never got along with the teachers. Like, I didn't, that's weird because
Trying to
I
remember my
love
eighth grade science
science.
class. I don't remember a damn thing about my eighth grade science class.
My teacher was crazy. Like, we all knew it. Like, I'd be back there blowing stuff up like that kid in Harry
Oh,
Potter. Like, not
sorry. I
on
thought that was going a
purpose.
different direction.
No, not in eighth grade, but no. So like, and he'd be all right, y'all stop that. Who who is singing Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? And we're like, no one. Absolutely no one.
Jesus.
Please don't hurt us. And he would brag about how like no one ever pass or no one ever makes an A on his final exam or like so I mean this is a fun story. This is relating to my least favorite subject in school. Uh, like, so this guy, the crazy one, bragging about nobody can make an A on his test. Well, he made us take it in groups, and our group went out in the hall. Like, we had to go in the hall to take the test. So we cheated,
As you will.
and we got 100. All of us got 100 on his
What would you expect?
right. And
Send him into a hall to take a test.
he was irate and accused us of cheating because he's like, no one has ever made an A on my test, and you, four or five of you, made 100. All of you, no, you have to take it again. It's like, why are you determined to fail us? You're supposed to be teaching us. You're supposed to be encouraging us to make 100. So then we had to be separated and retake the test and not have access to cheating. And it was such a victory because we all made 100 again. I
Nice.
loved it. And he was so pissed off, and he had to eat his words and admit that we hadn't cheated. Except the first time we totally did, but we never admitted it to him.
I'm over here stuck. I listened to your whole story,
Uh-huh.
but I pride myself on my, I guess you'd call it my like situational memory.
Uh-huh.
And I cannot remember my eighth grade science class at all.
Oh wow. Maybe you didn't have one.
I'm thinking that might be the case, and I'm literally probably gonna get on Facebook after this and message somebody I went to middle school with
Uh-huh.
and be like, "Hey, who the hell were the science teacher?" Because all I need is a name.
Yeah.
I just need a
Yeah.
name, but I cannot for the life of me remember anything about eighth grade science.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So
Yeah,
was
I just
science
remember.
so seventh grade science the least favorite?
Yeah,
Sounds
seventh
like eighth
grade.
grade had a good running for
Oh,
you.
it did. So did sixth grade. And it was always because of the teachers were kind of just
I feel like your
either
favorite was probably going to be
jerks
teacher
or
as well.
psychos. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because I mean, okay, so I loved English
Learning
and
had to be fun.
yeah. Like in like I was a terrible student, like you say. I was a terrible student. I didn't do the homework. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't interested. I
Yeah, unless
barely
I was made to
passed.
be interested.
Right, exactly. There were a few teachers in my adolescence, because in college, I was there by choice, and the teachers were great, like mostly all around. There were some goofy ones, but I didn't hate the classes. There was a teacher I was like a groupie for in at Richland College, Dr. Northcutt. She was amazing. I took every class she taught, English. Like I was taking English as electives to the point that I still have to take electives. And I'm like, but I took all my electives. I'm like, Nope.
Glenn, you got to take a
No, they
one
all
besides
counted for
English.
different things. Like they weren't counting for English, but they counted for different things.
Right,
Like,
sociology and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like
Because I
that.
took global study. I took every class you taught. But
Humanities.
but um but I would say my favorite class was, and this takes some explaining. Um because like as a teenager I went through some things. Like my parents, like there was kind of a trend with baby boomers throwing their kids in the nut house when they hit adolescence because they didn't know what to do with them. So
Yeah.
like so I got to
Holy
have one
shit,
of
they're
those.
thinking.
Yeah, it's like, what, you're not a cute innocent child anymore. And I don't know. I don't want to
And there's
get
no war for me to throw you into.
right. And so I don't want to get too into how that happened, but my mother wasn't having it, and I wound up. I had a very corrupt and crooked psychiatrist I went to and said nothing to, who then told my mother he thought I was a danger to myself and others. And I'm like, how did you get that from? Yeah, no, I wasn't talking to this guy. So my mother was hysterical, and my dad was trying to tell her, no, don't put him in the nut house. He's fine. But my mom was like, no, he's dangerous. And I'm just like, how am I dangerous? What did I do? Nothing. So like I wound up, gosh, that was eighth grade. Yes, I think that was eighth grade. Second semester of eighth grade. I got um locked up in the loony bin for teenagers, and none of us should have been there, is the thing. Like, I think back on that, no one should have been there. Like, there was a girl there who was there because she enjoyed having sex with her boyfriend. Clearly insane. Like, the baby boomer parents
And
couldn't.
what's her name? No, I'm just kidding.
Like, gosh. I mean, there was one girl there who couldn't stop sniffing liquid paper. She belonged there. She could no longer remember her childhood, and she
It's a
was
good
like
time.
14. So, yeah.
She
But
was still in her childhood and couldn't remember it.
right. But I mean, most people there, it was like just normal stuff that was deemed too crazy for the parents. So I was there. Um, and I got out after a few months because the insurance ran out. But when I got back to school, so I mean, this is where it takes some explaining. Um, so I got back to school, got back in my classes, and things were picking up. Like I so I don't know, I don't need to tell all that. But so my mother, again, just not wanting things to get better. And I don't want to badmouth my mom here. It's just she had a different perspective on things. And I felt like I was doing fine in my classes, but she kept going to the school and saying, no, he needs to be in special classes to adjust to coming back to school and all this stuff. Like, he still has issues, he still has problems. I'm like, I'm fine. And I was making friends in my classes that I went back, but no, I got pulled out of all of that finally. The school agreed with her to do what she wanted. So there was this program at the school I went to, ninth grade. This is ninth grade now. And they put me in, it was called a BA. It was called behavioral adjustment classes. And this is where they put the bad kids who, like, the kids who would throw books at their teachers.
Right.
The bad kids. So, um, I'm in this class, mild-mannered Glenn Clark, and no one knew I was there. Like, the
You're just the
teachers,
crazy white boy.
right? The teachers, I mean, there were lots of crazy white boys in there, but I was a quiet crazy. I wasn't, I didn't need to be restrained ever. I don't
Not
know.
like
I mean,
now.
there was a severely autistic kid in there who literally just couldn't function. He was humping the windowsills. I'm in class with these guys. And don't get me wrong, like some of them were great. I got along with these people.
Right, Window Humper was having a
I
good time.
I didn't think they were bad people, but they didn't fit the cookie cutter, I guess. In a way that frightened teachers. So, um so I get put in this class. I mean, I had the teachers would literally look at me from time to time and just say, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Ask my mom."
Right.
But like, so I'm in behavioral adjustment at Lake Highlands Junior High in ninth grade, and that was my favorite because I had an amazing teacher. Like, because it was more like elementary school than actual where you go, like regular junior high, you go to homeroom maybe first period. You have your homeroom class, whatever, for what it's worth, where I guess you get all the announcements and stuff, but you're only in there for one class, and then you're bouncing around. But um in this one, it was like you're in the same classroom for every class and you have the same teachers for all but maybe one class because there were two teachers, two assistants, two rooms. So I would go to the other classroom for one class, but every other class was taught by the same guy, Mr. Burke, John Burke. Like he was fantastic, and his assistant was Mrs. Johnson. They were amazing. She would do the grading and stuff. He would do the teaching. I'm convinced he always was coming in hungover. Um, like this dude was cool. This dude made me love the Neverending Story. Like he would read to us. He would break down movies for us. And he was not your typical teacher. Like he was like I said, pretty clearly hungover in the mornings, like sunglasses on and everything. But he was like built, like this guy worked out. He made us work out. Like, we'd go to the gym, we'd go swim. Like, he had the best workout music, some of which is on my workout playlist to this day. Um, like, I don't know, he was a great teacher, and specifically because we had every class in the same environment. The English class, that is the only time that English and Glenn Clark ever got along before college.
Yes, English and author Glenn
Right,
Clark or
right.
did not get
Ironically,
along.
we did not get along in school, mostly because I didn't do homework. Um, but this guy, like, he made reading and writing worth my while. Like, and I would write, like, we'd have creative writing assignments every week where we'd have to use all of the vocabulary words we'd learned that week. That was the only rule. And they let me go nuts, as you know well I can do. If you say, Glenn, imagine something, tell me a story about a turtle. And I'll just, like, there will be space pirates and robot armadillos involved. Like, I don't know. But I would write these stories called Adventures in the Land of Stupid. And I would put every vocabulary word in there. And it was always about a pickle and a mushroom that were roommates. And like they would have these insane adventures. Like Mr. Burke once asked me, he's just like, Glenn, why are all your stories about a pickle and a mushroom in the land of stupid? And I was developing this elaborate continuity, like every week, like the stories would progress, and there just I was becoming a novelist in this class.
Right.
like under everybody's nose. Like Miss Johnson once told me, like grading my papers, she's like, Glenn, when you grow up, you're either going to be a pervert or you're going to be on display somewhere as the most. No, I think she said you're either going to be a writer or you're going to be on display somewhere as the most perverted mind in America.
Yeah, and look at you now, both.
I know exactly. I'm both.
Miss
And
Johnson called it.
she did. She called it. And she graded my stories, but they both, like Mr. Burke would have the final say on stuff. Like, and there was one story I turned in called Prison in the Land of Stupid, where the pickle and the mushroom went to prison for something. I think they were just running around naked or something. They got thrown in jail. And like they met a crazy person who just looked at them and said all of the vocabulary words out of context because he was insane. And so they respond to this insanity, this word salad as such, and the story progresses. I'm like, I use my flippin' vocabulary words. Let me write this story about a pickle and a mushroom in prison. And like,
Sounds like a South Park episode.
I know it could have been, but I got 100 on it because I used all my vocabulary words. And it
Nice.
made sense in the story because I had them said by an insane person. So I learned to love writing in that class. And I learned to love storytelling, just stories like Mr. Burke reading us A Wrinkle in Time, or, telling us what the never ending story is actually about. Just stuff like that that made it like, wait, there are layers, there's depth. It's not just surface level stuff going on in a story. There's hidden meanings, there's hidden agendas. Like, it was fascinating. So I would say my ninth grade English class in particular is my favorite from school, like all eras combined. That's the most
Nice.
impactful class I ever took.
Yeah, it seems like anybody you ask, like what their if it's not just surface level BS,
Yeah.
if they had a nice strong family and good familial backing and all
Hmm.
went to a nice school and all that and had a normal quote unquote childhood in
Right.
school, they'd be, maybe if they got to enjoy learning because they had no
Hmm.
other worries in their lives at the time,
Yeah.
um, it would be pretty surface. Oh, I really love learning about history or something like that.
Hmm.
But it seems like for most broken people like me and people I know, it
Right.
it often has to do with who was with you, be it
Hmm.
a classmate or a teacher or
Right.
your current headspace
Hmm.
within a classroom that dictates that year in that class was the best
Hmm.
and or the worst.
Right. Yeah. I mean, teachers make a difference.
They do, and they aren't paid
And
enough.
right, I agree. Not at
Yeah,
all.
the good ones aren't paid enough.
Hmm.
The bad ones can burn in hell. Um, some of them are,
Right. Probably.
and
Probably. If there is a hell,
well,
you
at
know.
least at least four of my high school teachers are in prison for child stuff.
Holy crap, that's terrifying.
Yeah, luckily I never had a single one of them, but I was aware of them
Gotcha. Good.
and
Ooh.
not aware of them as predators, but I was
Hmm.
aware of them as in they taught at my school.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have them, some of my friends did.
Hmm.
Like Courtney had one of them as an English teacher, and
Hmm. Oh.
he was actively predating
Oh, that's
and
horrible.
like looking back, Courtney's like, ah,
Yeah, like Well, I won't say names because I don't want to get sued by any teachers
Right.
who are still working out there. But like, two of the kids when y'all were all in the youth group under my mad leadership, uh, were cousins, right? And they went to the same school, and they would always be like, what was it? Like, the teacher would come up to both of them at different times in the class and just kind of be like, incest is the best, put your cousin to the test. Like that kind of
Huh.
crap. And I'm like, how is that guy not fired? What the hell? Like just encouraging them to get together because it turned him off. And I'm
Forbidden
like,
fruit.
how the hell do some people wind up as teachers? Like, I guess, I don't know. I guess there's a draw to that kind
Well,
of like
if you were to become a
being a
teacher,
Catholic
somebody would
priest.
be asking that question about you years from now.
Well, yeah, like people would be like, "You're a youth minister? You are a youth minister?" But I wasn't like well, not I wasn't a pervert to y'all. Like, I wasn't like
You
that.
would allow us to be
I would
perverts,
allow you to be open and honest. That's
which for a 13-year-old boy,
right. But I
13 to
wasn't
18-year-old boy is incredibly perverted.
true. But
But
it's more like I was sex positive. Like I wasn't
true.
like, oh, well, you're gonna go to hell now. You're a very naughty, naughty boy. Like
Right,
if
when we
y'all
make a joke.
right,
Like
exactly.
it's not
I
like we were
know
having
it's a
orgies
joke.
at the
Exactly.
yeah, Glenn didn't let us have orgies at the Camp Forests. Not that he
Right.
was aware of at
Not that
least.
I was aware of. Yeah.
And yeah, Glenn had to
I
close his ears to a lot of things he may or may not have been aware of. No, but yeah, no, I mean, the school was a hellish time
hmm
for me personally, and the only reason it became worth it was because of the experiences,
hmm
much much less the learning aspect. I didn't do a lot of learning.
Right. Right.
Um, I'm quite educated, but a lot of that is due to my own pursuits.
Right. An autodidact.
Right.
You
Like
learn things
I
on
retained
your
well,
own.
and that's the thing is my grades would never show it, but I did retain all of the information I thought was cool or
Right.
interesting or clicked with me. I am quite mathematical,
hmm
but fucking hated math class.
God, I
But it
hated
just it
math.
just worked with me. Like, I was
Uh-huh.
just able to do it as much as I hated. Because the thing I hated about doing it is because I understood it the first time you told me. Now, why is my homework to do it 50 times?
Oh God,
Like,
yes. I
like
know,
that was my
man.
that was my main shtick. Was I survived math class because of tests?
hmm
Because that was one thing that math class there's no subjective answer.
hmm
The only thing I got in trouble for was not showing work.
Yeah, I
But
hated
but I but
that.
I did it in my head. Like, but well, I don't know if you did it in your head. You could have been just
hmm
looking on the paper next to you. I was like, yeah, but I didn't. I'll do it
Yeah.
again. Give me a different problem. I'll do it right here in front of you. But yeah, no. So good answers, Glenn.
Oh,
I didn't
thanks.
I didn't know you were a crazy kid.
Oh, I was I was in the
You didn't
box
know
with the
either.
crazy kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a crazy kid, but I wasn't a violent kid.
Window humper.
Right. I wasn't a violent kid or a window
That didn't
humper.
come
Like,
along till later in life.
right, right. I had to meet the right window, like right windowsill. But I mean, and that kid was great. Like when he wasn't humping windowsills, you know.
Yeah, it reminds me of Chase.
Yeah, it's exactly like Chase.
I love Chase.
I do too.
What a
But you
character.
reminded me of a story, like a very short story. Don't worry. Um, just talking about the math thing. Like my granddad on my maternal grandfather, Granddaddy George. Um, when he was in school, he took like he was in trade school or something, learning to be a mechanic, and he had to take math, and so he did the same thing where he got the right answers, but he got them the wrong way. And so the
Ah,
teacher was going to fail him. And he said, if you fail me because I got the wrong answers the right way, I'm going to come up here and throw you out that window. And he would have too. But the teacher decided to go ahead and pass him. So I could see my granddaddy George being in the behavioral adjustment classes, but
yeah, it sounds like it.
he was a great guy though. I mean, so were the people in the behavioral adjustment class. They were mostly good people. I can't think of anyone I hated in there. I mean, they were more real, than the stupid rich kids that we all went to school with.
Yep, that's what my class was. Because I
Yeah.
was in the enriched honors program. And I was like, y'all got phones?
hmm
For me being 13, or I was 12 turning 13 in 2006,
Yeah.
when cell phones were still on the rise.
Right.
And yeah, your boy here didn't have one.
Right.
But everybody in my class, it seemed like, had a freaking iPhone,
Jeez.
which was making its launch,
Yeah.
and was just crazy talk to me. Like, I'm gonna ask my dad for an iPhone. Yeah, get real. I just got an iPod Nano last year
hmm
with the total capacity of about 25 songs on it. Um, but I rocked the hell out of that thing, though. I'll tell you what. Uh, but yeah, freaking rich kids.
Right, right.
Would have
Oh,
been
I could
cool to
tell you
be one,
stories.
but I'm
I don't
glad I
think I'm
wasn't.
glad I wasn't. I'm really glad
I'd appreciate the
that I
silver
had
spoon now. Like, I'd rather be a trust fund kid to never know that I was rich.
right.
That would have been cooler. To turn 25 and be like, turns out, here is a $250,000, and
Yeah.
yeah, and or here's your entire college tuition at a grand university paid for
hmm
by something your parents did a very long time ago. That would have been cool, because then I
Right.
would have grown up not knowing that.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't be a
A
monster.
prick.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And but anyway, sort of piggybacking off of this, so that worked out well.
Oh, good.
We'll see. Um,
See, you're good at this. Like, I'm intimidated now because, like, I have to come up with equally good questions for you, and I was gonna just steal yours, but now I wasn't really, but you're answering a lot of them. Like, I'm like, okay, so I can't do a variation on that one because you've already said it,
no, you
which
can't.
is good.
I've held back quite a bit.
Okay, good,
I have
good.
held back quite a bit. Anything that I may have said now, I could go into way more detail
Okay, got it.
were it my episode.
And that's not a complaint. I'm not telling you to shut up because
No,
this is a
no,
conversation. We're having a
yeah.
conversation. It's
And in this
it's not
conversation,
literally just me.
no,
Oh,
it is. It's this has been a fun episode. I'm
it
enjoying being
has.
the
I am too.
interviewer.
I'm enjoying
Um,
being interviewed.
Glenn Clark,
Oh, hey,
what
that's me.
is your dream job? All access, paid for education. You can take time off work to get it done, to get to wherever you want to be.
Mhm.
No holds barred. What are you doing? What are you making your living off of?
I want to teach English and history at a community college.
Perfect piggyback. I'm so good at this.
You
Uh,
really are. No, that's what I want to do. Like, even as a writer, like, even if my books started being bestsellers and I didn't have to work anything else, I'd still want to do that. Like, I'd still want to teach history, philosophy, and English, like literature. And they all go together, at least the way that
totally.
I see it. And like, that's what I'd want. That's my ideal future Glenn is well on his way to doing that in 5 years. It's because I love teaching. Like I love working with people and getting them to think and see things and like break things down in ways they've never thought about it. I love teaching history because you can make it interesting. I don't understand. You don't have to make it interesting, honestly. It is interesting. You just have to not be boring yourself. You have to be willing to talk about history as it really was, not try to like clean it up. Like that's one thing I would definitely do as a teacher is okay, we're going to talk about a time period or a historical figure, and I'm going to tell you all the dirty stuff. I'm going to tell you all the stuff that they did not tell you in high school. Even if I were a high school teacher, I would do that because then you're going to remember things. You're going to remember this guy like trying to think of an example, but there's
Alexander the
so
Great.
many. Like Alexander the Great, like holy yeah. Like you're gonna remember that Alexander was never conquered by anyone except for Hephaestion's thighs. You're gonna remember
Yeah.
all of those things, like all the stuff that a a person who doesn't like history is going to be sucked into a story. And that's how you do it. Like you teach history as a storyteller. You don't just teach dates and names and memorize this. You tell a story. That's what his story is. Um,
Yeah, but I want to hear her story.
it's the same thing, but written by her. We can have that now.
No, that's just my line whenever I take a women's studies class.
Oh, right, right. I want to
I've
do
had
that. Like,
I've had enough of his story. I want to learn her story.
right. But yeah, it was just kind of like a job where I get paid to be me, which is what youth ministry was for me. I was getting paid just to be Glenn. It didn't
Yeah, it'd
feel
be
like I had a job sometimes. I'm like, I feel weird that I feel like I don't have a job, but I worked so hard in that career um while I was in it, but it wasn't, it's like working hard the same way that I work hard on a novel. It's not like um it's not like the day job I have now, where I'm literally just there to make money. Like it's not something I would be doing or wanting to do if I didn't have to.
right.
So I
The
want to get
the
back to that.
the realities of Glenn the teacher are perplexing to me because
Huh.
because I don't see you having a job for long.
Same.
Like, were it to be like, because I have a hard time picturing you failing a student.
Right. Well, that's fair. It's
And
like,
as a teacher, you have to fail students when they
mm,
don't perform.
but see,
And there are
my,
there are definitely hoops a teacher can jump through to do the best they can for a teacher or for
yeah,
a student.
yeah.
But I feel like Glenn Clark might cut through some red tape in order to prevent a promising student
Hmm.
from getting the axe.
Right. Well, like say I'm teaching high school or something.
Yeah,
I think
you couldn't.
no, I wouldn't last long at all because I would break all the rules because they're stupid, right? And I would teach real stuff, but um, none of this. The slaves
Glenn Clark
were treated
would be
well
movie
crap.
teacher that the class is all united and you end like gang violence in the classroom with like singing and dancing and all that stuff
Right,
and
definitely. That's
that
exactly.
yeah no but
Um, no, but I mean, seriously, that's kind of probably not far off because in the church, I defied the authorities to do what needed to be done, what the teenagers I was working with needed. Um, and people would tell me to stop. Like people in power positions or peers would be like, you're investing too much of yourself in kids who aren't gonna make it. You know, kids like our friend who makes more money than all of us combined now in sales, who was
Right.
introduced to me as a bad kid. Don't invest in that kid. And I didn't see bad kids. And that's kind of how I'd look at school. Like, would I fail kids? I hope not, because I think if a teacher has to put an F on a paper, it's their F. Like, I'd feel like that was my F.
Right.
And I
This is
am
the
the
type of
sort,
person you are.
right, because I wouldn't want to be a teacher just to get paid. I want to be a teacher to teach. And not everybody learns the same. And that's the problem with the system is you put too many kids in a classroom, the teacher is overwhelmed. There's no way a
Right.
teacher
You're not
can
a
address
systematic person.
exactly. Like I would find something I could do. I would try so hard. And I think a lot of teachers do, but they make it so hard to succeed in teaching in public school. Um, and I think especially with adolescents, I would definitely be breaking. That's why I don't think I would last in high school because I would be defying the authorities to do what I thought was right to help a kid learn a thing, you know, because you have to meet them at their level. That's what I always, hate in youth ministry. There would be the youth ministers who were like, well, I'm up here, and this is the way to be. Y'all need to get up here. Stop being bad. No
And
swearing. Here's a swear
yep.
jar. And I'm like, that's not how you teach people to climb a mountain. You don't climb to the top of the mountain and say, come up here, get up here. This is where you need to be. You go down to the bottom of the mountain, you climb next to someone where they're at. You meet a kid where a kid is. You don't say, here is where you need to be. Get up here. You say, where are you? Okay, I'm coming down there. Let's climb together. Because kids climb differently and at different paces, and they don't all have to be at the mountaintop at the same time. And I feel like public school wants to put everybody in a cookie cutter, students and teachers alike. And I don't think, no, I know for a fact it's like if I don't think something is right, I can't do it. If somebody's telling me do this thing and I think that thing is wrong, I'm not gonna do it. So like I'm just getting fired up because it pisses me off. Like the whole
Right.
public school system pisses me off because it's not fair to
Right.
students and it's not
You'd
fair to
never make it.
teachers. I would never make it. You're right, but I
Right.
would try really hard before they fired me.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's why
because
I want to
you
teach college because I
right,
think
you would
I could.
have to teach college. But
Yeah.
the problem with college teaching is that it's largely viewed that you have to put in your hours. You have to put in the service at
Uh-huh.
a public school before you can become a
Right.
college professor.
And I'm down with that.
You have,
I'll
yeah,
try.
you would have to steel yourself
Mm.
and go in there and be prepared to let some kids fall through the wayside.
Mm.
And I don't know if you'd be able to do that
I don't know if I don't
because
think I would.
because your cookie cutter analogy works perfectly, but I have another one for you.
Mm.
It's like a blender and the teachers are expected to be the blades.
Oh yeah, and
And
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that. Like if there's any chance in hell to get a kid to not fail without cheating, without just giving them an A or whatever. But I mean if a kid makes like a 69, I'm not gonna fail a kid if that's their final grade. That's
yep,
ridiculous. Not over a point. I would
yep,
invent some extra credit that would be tailored to the kid.
yep.
That's what I would do. Just knowing myself and my history, I know that I would do
Now
that.
I
And
could absolutely see you failing a kid that has no intention to learn.
right.
Like, because that to me is a different story completely.
Hmm.
Like it's
Well, there are gonna be some people, some cases that are just outside my capacity, you
right.
know, and I can't. it's that is a case where, yeah, it's like you have to make a decision. Do you
Like you've talked
do
to
you
them,
break the rules for this
you've
kid and get fired so you can't help any kids ever again in the future?
yep,
Or, and I had conundrums like that in youth ministry too, where I had to
right,
make choices that were okay, if I don't keep my job, I don't get to be there for these people anymore. So very few choices like that. Like having to report things to CPS. It's the
right.
law,
You
you
have
know,
to.
and there are times when you can't escape it.
That's 4 years in prison.
Is it?
Yeah, no, if something happens later on
Oh,
and
I
it's come
see.
and it's come to light that Glenn
Yeah.
Clark knew about it
Mm-hmm.
and did nothing, or
Right.
like the situation escalated, like it was already
Yeah.
illegal then and should have been reported to
Mm-hmm.
CPS, and then it got
Yeah.
worse and then was found out, that's like up to 4 years in prison.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew it was bad, but and I did, you know, like, yeah, there were times when we had to call CPS and it couldn't be avoided. And I hate it because more often, it seems like more often than not, from my vantage point in that position, CPS did a lot more harm than good for the kid.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
sure, they removed them from a dangerous situation sometimes. Um, Other times they would go where there's a dangerous situation and say everything was fine.
right,
But once they take them out of the home, they put them in the system and everything is worse. And there's so much abuse going on in the system. It's there are foster parents abusing the system just to get money. There's all kinds of terrible things going on. And that, I'm not trying to generalize all foster parents. I'm just saying that exists in there.
right,
That is something horrible that exists in the system. And there's too much of it for my liking. Like one is too much for my liking, but
right,
like there were times when we had to call CPS, but I immediately went into action to do something to subvert CPS, like to fix the problem before they got there.
right. Just make it sort of a wake up call
Yeah, and
for
sometimes
whoever
it
you're call
was.
CPS on.
Right. And
And
sometimes it was. And, it would get something changed sometimes, but my goal was to not let a kid get taken out. Like one time I was driving to work and I'm listening to like, dang it, what's that? I don't know what station it is, like not the classical station, but something similar. And like the news segment came on and I'm listening to this and I'm like, that's one of my kids who's just been busted. Like their house got raided by the FBI. Mother was in custody. A kid was in the system. Kid was being taken out of the state to live with a father that I'd been told was abusive. And I'm like, I couldn't stop it. It was happening, but I still got in there and I called in favors left and right. You're not supposed to um contact CPS and find a kid. That's supposed to be very confidential. They're supposed to basically disappear this kid
right, witness
from
protection
yeah. But
sort of
I
thing.
I got her on the phone. I called in favors. Like I'd worked with CPS people here and there for whatever thing. Um and I got that kid's agent. I got that number and I called it. And I was like, look, I'm the youth minister. I need to talk to you about what's going
Aware of the
on here.
situation.
Yeah, it's like, and I got to talk to her on the phone. Like that was a hard one, but I had to break rules to do what was
Yeah,
right. And like, there were times when I did everything I could to keep the kid from being, I got one kid out of the house and into a foster family of my choosing, basically, at the church, which was better than that kid going into the system and not being able to finish school. And that I should, like, by law, I should have called CPS, but
right,
I didn't. I did
right,
detective work on my own. I found drunk mom. drunk, drugged up mom shacked up with some old man having disappeared. Like, I got kid in another home. Like, that's the kind of thing where, yeah, no, I wouldn't make. I mean, I don't want that to sound like I'm tooting my horn. Like,
No, no,
that was, I'm just saying that's my personality. I
it's
can't let it
we
go.
take care of business. You know,
Yeah,
that's the way. You didn't do anything wrong in that scenario. You didn't do the
right.
generally right thing that
Hmm.
does more wrong than it does
Right. It's like,
help.
if you
But
really want to help, you can't just follow the rules
you
because
can't just
sometimes the rules are
yeah.
going to do more harm, and you have to be able to make that call and try to find a way around it.
Well, and when it comes to what
It's a
I was talking
risk you
about
have to
with
take.
with perjury, basically, with knowing something, those things you only get put in jail if you know a kid's getting touched, pretty much.
I see. And
That's
see,
pretty much where it goes.
and that's one of those situations where, hell yes, I've got to call CPS and get
Yeah,
them out of
you've
there
got to
right
get the
now.
authorities
If
in
I
there.
can't, yeah, if immediate action has to be taken one way or another. Either I get that kid out of there, or I have to call. If I can't get that kid out of there, I have to call CPS.
People with guns.
Yeah, yeah, for real. And that happened. That happened a few times behind the scenes that most y'all had no idea stuff was going on. Like,
Right.
it was just, oh, it was gut wrenching. But yeah, Glenn as a high school teacher would be Glenn as a youth minister, but with books. I mean,
And more rules.
and more rules that would get in my way. So, but Glenn
Yeah,
as a
like
college teacher,
your mountain analogy works too, if I could rephrase it. It's
oh
sort of
sure.
like the the Glenn would have to be the mountain instructor, the mountain guide for kids that have already made it over the first few mountains. Because
Right.
if Glenn had his way, everybody make it to the top of those mountains.
Hmm.
But Glenn would be thrown off the mountain by the mountain gods.
Right. Right.
Because yeah, I mean my experience in college, as brief as it was, I did about 2 years at Richland.
Yeah.
More like three, with the last two being sort of like here and there.
Uh-huh.
But I did like a full load my first 2 semesters at Richland. And I will tell you, like the quality of the teacher went way up.
Right, because it
Like,
could. They weren't as restricted.
yeah. But at the same time, again, not to toot my own horn here, we like to
Mhm.
toot our horns here at
Yeah.
Autodidactica.
Yeah. Check out
Um,
our OnlyFans.
yeah, we'd be
Uh,
tooting horns. I toot my own horn.
right.
But anyway, I was about to take that way further than it should have gone for comedic purposes. But I feel like in this setting, it could be taken a little too literally. Anyway, no, so the teacher's quality went way up, but I, as a 19-year-old, as dumb as I was still leagues above, at least I felt, my fellow 19-year-old. Like I'm still looking around and be like, okay, teacher quality has gone way up, but most of these kids are still high school kids to me.
Yeah. No, for real. And like, I had conversations with English teachers up at Richland, and they were just like, some of these students, why are they here? They can't write. Like, why
Right.
are they in a college class? They need to go back to basics. Why are
Right. No,
they here?
because that's exactly right. Because you know, there's no differences in college classes. Like, you come from high school, like middle and high school, where like in my
Yeah.
middle school there was regulars class, there was honors class, and then I was in enriched honors class. Then you go to high school and you've got regulars class, which I've said before on the show.
Yeah.
Incredibly demeaning to call it regulars. Um,
Right.
but there's regulars, then there was advanced placement or AP, and then I did what was, for the first 2 years of high school, I did international baccalaureate,
Ooh,
IB program, which was
nice.
hell on earth. And for again, there are kids that did it with broken households, but I was not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to them who powered through. Like there was this one kid who's like his like mother died of cancer in his freshman year, and like he had like five brothers, and his father was working like four jobs to care for them, and he's like in a room with like three of his brothers at night doing the 5 hours on average of homework every night
Mm-hmm.
that we were left with in the IB program, and he was a salutatorian, and like he teared up on stage giving his address
Huh.
and all that, and telling his story and honoring his mother and father and the support and power that they gave him and all that. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know if I would have been able to do that, like doing my homework by candlelight
Mm-hmm.
in a two-bedroom apartment with my six relatives. Like,
Oh yeah.
so kudos to them. But anyway, you go from having these advanced placement classes all through high school, um, or if you were a quote unquote regulars kid, going into college classes where
Mm-hmm.
there is no advanced placement, there's no honors class. It is English 1301,
Mm-hmm.
and you're expected to be at the same level roughly. But then here comes Matt Paul, having been in the advanced placement classes throughout his entire
Right.
school career. And then here comes, Joe Blow, who's been in regulars class since he got out of elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we are at two distinct levels,
Right.
very, very distinctly different levels. And it's
Right. And that's frustrating to the college professors because they're not there to
prepared.
teach you the basics.
Yeah,
They
they're not there
need
to
you
teach
to
you.
already know the basics of how to write and how to use the English
Yeah,
language.
the differences between your and there and there.
Right.
Like they are, they're not
Mm.
there to teach you. They're not there to
Right.
teach you the difference between they're not there.
Right.
And but
And like, and I think it would be easier to fail people were I a college teacher if I had to, because these are adults. Either way
quote
you look
unquote.
at it, these are people in college. For one thing, the fact that you're in college means that probably you don't need saving. You don't need, for the most part, it's like I'm not going to learn your personal struggles, probably, because
Right.
it's much more, there's more distance between students and teachers. It's kind of like everyone's there on their own. Um,
There, you get as much out of college as you put in.
exactly. And so,
You're not forced to be there.
yeah,
As a matter
you're
of fact,
paying to be
you
there.
are
And if
paying
you,
to be there. And if you're not doing
exactly,
anything, hey, you should not be here. Like this is
exactly.
not me telling you that you're an idiot.
Uh-huh.
This is me telling you good adult advice. Because if you're talking to a 19-year-old and they're
Yeah,
just not showing up for class, they're not doing the work and stuff, it's like,
right.
have you considered getting a job?
Yeah,
Like, if you already do not have one, or if you have one and it's holding you back from your studies, you need to pick one if you can.
right,
But like, you are
right.
wasting your money.
Mm-hmm.
You're wasting your money and my time.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah,
your money is
exactly.
worth more than my time at this point.
Uh-huh.
Like, and if that is the way it is, then this is the adult world and that is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And like, welcome to reality. You shouldn't be here
Right. And see, and then you
because,
can give your attention to the ones who actually do want to put in the effort, the ones who come up to you and talk to you after class. Like
yep.
the ones who want your attention are the ones who need it in a college setting, I think. It's different than high school. And
Right. Like I was not hesitant to email my professor and be like, "Hey, I just had a brutal shift at work today. I'm not gonna have that assignment ready tomorrow."
uh-huh.
And they would email me in the morning and either be like, "That's totally fine. I get it. We're
Hmm.
adults here."
Right,
Um,
exactly.
you know, I'll give you a 50 on it. It's not that much of a weight on your grade. Just make sure you study the material that that assignment covered. Because most of
Mm-hmm.
my college classes that I picked, I specifically picked ones that were weighted on quizzes and tests more than assignments. So most of the time, there either weren't assignments at all, or they were worth like 10% of my grade
Mm-hmm.
and were solely there to help me review material. Um,
Yeah.
which is something you're not allowed to do in public school. I don't know if you're privy to that at all, but you're not allowed to. There are certain weight requirements that public school teachers have to adhere to, as in like
Mm.
homework cannot be less than 30% of a student's grade.
Right. All
Like tests
that's
tests cannot be more than 50% of a student's grade. So you could not be a high school teacher and have homework, have a college level
mm-hmm.
syllabus. Like you could not have
Right.
it to where homework is only 10% of the grade and tests are 30, or I mean quizzes are 30 and tests are 50. Like it just doesn't work that way,
Mm-hmm.
to where you could have a student who never does their homework but gets an A in the class
Right.
because, or a B plus, because they score high on every one of their quizzes and tests.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work that way in high school. They literally make it to where you can't do that. They make it to where you have to give them homework.
Right.
It has to be a certain percentage of their grade, you know, which would
Yeah,
be
which
considered, which would
sucks.
go against OSHA. If you look at high school and middle school as a job,
Oh yeah.
that would be against OSHA because you
Uh-huh.
are sending kids home to do more work after the
Right.
8 hours of work plus a lunch break that they've
Mm-hmm.
already put in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, with the
Yeah,
IB
it's too
program, it was
much.
literally studied and shown that on average it was 4.5 to 5 hours of homework a night.
Right, because every teacher gives you homework.
Yep.
It's like, how do you have time for all this? That's why I mostly didn't do it.
Yeah, that's why I did. That's why I was a horrible
Or
student. My
I would
grades
do
would
it like,
show that I'm an idiot.
right, like I barely passed high school, and most
Yeah,
because of
same,
English.
same.
Funnily enough, English almost failed me my senior year,
I
like the
made a
whole year.
my final grade for my year four English class, my senior year English class was a 59.
Wow.
And he bumped it to a 70.
Hmm.
Just did some stuff, I guess.
Right. And
Like
they
sometimes
teachers who
some
care will. Like if
and
they don't care, they'll just let you fail.
I've sometimes like woken up in the middle of the night and be like, I don't have a high school diploma.
No, I've had the
But
nightmares where I
I
walk into
do.
a high school and they're like, "You never passed algebra. You
Mm-hmm.
still are in, where have you been?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What? It's been years." Well, you need to go to class. You need to graduate high school, get a degree. You can't do anything in life until, and I'm like, it's horrible. I know
All right. So
exactly. So
new
go on.
podcast topic, general education.
I think so. We're kind of doing it. Like we keep
Yeah.
going into little topics. Like
Yeah.
we're definitely doing education right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so general education, new podcast topic coming soon. We could talk about our experiences and how we would have done them differently.
Right.
So as we continue, I don't have any good segues left.
Oh, that's fine. We don't need segways.
And
We can just walk or take a
yeah,
car or a moped.
let's see here. All right, so I have two more questions for you, Glenn.
Okay.
And both of them are just sort of
Let's take an hour with each one.
yes, very, very possible. Um,
The boy can talk. It's
this one
true.
is a this or
Oh,
uh, and it's just something I came up with here,
gotcha.
and I feel like you can take it somewhere cool.
Hopefully.
No pressure.
Oh, too
Um,
much pressure. I quit.
yeah. So here we go. Um, unlimited money, as in not just like a credit card with no limits,
Hmm.
like you can never lose it. People just don't charge you however you want to view it. You no more financial burdens for the rest of your life. Or immortality. And
Um,
immortality, and I already came up with, I didn't write it down, but I already had this in my head, in the sense that you cannot die. Like you can get beheaded and your head will grow back. Like
sweet.
you cannot die. You will live until our sun explodes and perhaps even further on from that.
Mhm. Hmm. So unlimited money or true deathless immortality.
Yes.
Um, I'm gonna take immortality because I want to see it all. I mean, that's worth more than any amount of money that's gonna lose value over time anyway. Like monetary systems will rise and fall. Like, I don't know. I just want to see it all, and if I'm immortal, I can work and save up money here and there in different periods and you know, I can get by. I can do it, but I get to see it all. If I'm immortal, I don't really have to worry about some things, Like I'm not going to starve to death.
Right.
Um,
You don't have to eat anymore.
yeah.
The way
That would
I
be
described it, at
cool.
least.
Yeah. I mean, eating would be just for fun, but
No, I think it actually in my head I said that your body still physically changes
oh,
because I wanted to put some limits on the immortality where I could.
hmm,
Um, so the limits that I had in my head as I was writing this question, if you'll allow me, and this probably won't change your answer,
uh-huh.
but like number one, you get to pick a time in your life. So you can pick, 23-year-old Glenn
Yeah.
to be your permanent body, but your body can still fluctuate. Like if you drink booze every day, all day,
Ah,
you will still experience the repercussions of it.
you just won't
It
die.
You just won't die.
You just might
If you
want to
yeah,
because
you just might want to, because that's the sort of the downside that I was trying to give immortality
okay.
is
Just that you're deathless, but you're not free from suffering.
right. And then
Yeah.
so like also like if you work out every day, you're not just gonna wake up the next day and all of your gains are gone. You can still put on
Right.
muscle
You
and improve
okay.
your physical form. So you still have physical repercussions.
Yeah.
But
So it sounds like the only thing removed from the equation is death
right.
and aging.
Yes. Death and
Okay.
aging. And you get to go back to like when I give you the magic pill,
Uh-huh.
you go back to your ideal prime, like of your choosing.
Okay.
So like for me, it'd be like 25 years old.
Yeah, I mean that's a good
Like,
one. 25 is kind of ideal because you're formed, you're done,
yeah,
you're cooked. So that's a good one. But yeah, I still like that's kind of how I was picturing it.
right,
So I wasn't, yeah, it's not like you're invulnerable. You just can't die. And to some
right.
people that would be horrific to never be able to die. And I don't get that kind of mindset, Like, of course I want to live forever. Like the only reason old people, some of them want to die is because they can't do anything anymore. Like they can't live. So I think like at some point for some people, old age becomes like a limbo and you just
Yeah,
want out of it. And there's only one way out of it right now. Um, but science is working on that
death
and I
is an open
believe in
door,
science.
and the only way out is through. But so
Yeah.
the pros and cons, you know, and I'm gonna have to answer this one myself a little bit because it's a little
Uh-huh.
more philosophical. So sorry, you
Gotcha.
won't be able to use this one.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine. I wouldn't. It was too clever. I'm only
uh,
going to use foolish questions when I do you.
Probably foolish philosophical questions,
Right.
which will be fun. Pressure, but no, I could go both ways. Um,
That's what I always say about myself.
yeah, I know you do. Um, but No, because with unlimited money, you could achieve immortality. Is
Hypothetically.
sort of what I was thinking. Like they could go either way. Like with immortality, you could essentially achieve unlimited money.
Right. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like you can work here and there, save up money because you don't have to worry about things. Like you could work a job and be homeless for a while and just save money.
Right,
And you have all the time in the world. You
right,
know, there's not a time limit on this. So,
right.
yeah, you can earn money through immortality, but yeah, if you see, I think it's much more hypothetical. It's like it's much more of a gamble to choose unlimited money and bank on being able to afford to be immortal because thus far the richest men in the world have all died, you know, previous to the ones we have now. You know, they
Right.
couldn't buy their way out of death.
Walt
I
Disney's
mean,
still on
death,
ice.
I don't know about that. But but like, you know, you can invest in science, but you know, you're eventually, even if, and I think this is gonna happen very likely in our lifetimes,
See episode 2.
right? If
One
science
of those.
cures aging and we can live an indefinite lifespan, you are still going to die. At some point, you could live hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of years. You're still going to die. Inevitably, everything that begins will end. But if you are deathless, just magically deathless, that's the only way out of that. You know, no amount of money is going to prevent time from burning you alive. Like that's a good Star Trek quote. One of the villains in the seventh Star Trek film. That was his great line. Time is the fire in which we burn. I
That
love
is a
that
great
line.
line. I'm gonna use that in a song.
Do. But no matter deep time will kill us all and erase the memory of us from everything. But if you're deathless, you'll be floating around in an empty universe
And that
one
sounds
day.
horrible.
That does sound horrible.
See, that's the sort of edge I was trying to give, the sort of lonely
Yeah.
edge that I was trying to give immortality.
Uh-huh.
You'd be starving
Uh-huh.
and crazy and
And you
lonely.
can't
You
die.
can't
And
die, and
that's
you never get to ascend either. If there is an
right.
ascension after we die,
Yeah.
you never get to experience that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think eventually you would because okay, deathless or not,
You're
floating
eventually going to be
around
erased.
floating around in an empty universe.
You
I
probably
mean, the
achieve
universe ends or
ascension.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably just
You
go
would
there.
see
Like,
what ascensionism is
right.
with your own eyes over time.
If you're 85 trillion years old, right?
Yeah.
Surely by then
You've seen everything.
you can like just walk into the spirit realm when
Like
you
when we
feel
die,
like
we
it.
see
Like,
the beginning of the universe and the end of the universe.
uh-huh.
Well, if you were deathless, you saw at least from when you were born to the end of the universe
Right.
with your own eyes, not all in a blink
Yeah.
in a five-dimensional space, you know, like you do when you die, theoretically.
Uh-huh.
You saw it all with your eyes, kind of like Bender in Futurama. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, and both of them basically the the reason why this question ended up in this interview was they actually intertwine quite a bit
Uh-huh.
because everything you can do with unlimited money, you could theoretically do with unlimited life. And everything you could do with unlimited life, you could do the same if you had unlimited money, like back and forth. Like um basically one appears to be selfish and the other appears to be potentially selfless.
Uh-huh.
Unlimited life being selfish and unlimited money being potentially selfless, depending on the
Uh-huh.
individual.
Hmm.
If it's Glenn
Oh,
Clark we're
true.
talking about, it could be incredibly selfless. You could achieve immortality for everybody
Right.
within your lifetime with unlimited money.
That's true because I mean, we know what makes people age now. We
Right.
know how
With a
to
little
turn
more
back the
funding and
clock, more or less. Yeah,
a little less political interference,
exactly.
you
Those
know, it
those
could
are the
be
two
it could
ingredients to
be
immortality right now. More
right.
funding, less political interference. Give
Yeah.
us our stem cells.
Yeah, exactly. Take them from the aborted babies. Um, and yeah, no. So with unlimited money, you could invest all that funding and improve the lives of all of your fellow man in your own lifetime
That's
to where
true.
and extend your own lifetime for
Yeah,
an unimaginable number of years. It could be you could live
true.
to 130 or you could live to be 10 billion,
Yeah,
like but whereas with unlimited life, maybe not in your lifetime, but you could become a researcher yourself. You could
yeah,
lead the
yeah,
charge.
true.
You
Exactly.
could amass a massive capitalistic empire that turns
Hmm.
humanitarian.
Right.
Kick a couple people off the ladder to
Uh-huh.
eventually donate all of your money to research.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't happen in a normal lifetime.
Uh-huh.
Like if I became
Oh, no,
immortal
yeah.
today and I was like, I'm going to do something altruistic, I'd be like, maybe in about 100 years or so. Like,
Right. Because you
I
have
would
all the
put
time in the
I would
world.
put me first, absolutely, for at
Hmm.
least a century
Yeah,
and
that's
just
fair.
fuck off.
Right. Just
And,
experience the world.
hold the hands of my friends as they die, and I am
Right.
still 25.
Uh-huh.
And then once everybody I knew is dead, then it's time to live it up for a little while.
Hmm.
I'm solo, I'm single, I'm stagnant,
Yeah,
all that. But fun question.
indeed. I
Watch
agree.
Altered Carbon, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's a good show.
Pretty much is that question in a nutshell.
Hmm.
What if you had immortality and unlimited money?
Right.
You would probably be a prick. Um,
Right. Probably.
if you
Ugh.
were just gifted it, you know,
Uh-huh.
if you're new money, maybe you'd have a little more appreciation.
Right,
But if
hopefully.
you were
But
silver
when you're
spooned into it,
but by the time you're 85 trillion years old, you're pretty much old money. Like you've been rich so long, you don't know any different. Like probably. I don't know. But it's kind of a tough call, like because making me think of the possibility of being 85 trillion years old and floating around an empty universe
that's
does
kind of
sound
rough.
hellish.
That's
Um,
kind of rough.
yeah, yeah,
But like I said, you could probably ascend.
yeah, no, exactly. I think by
You
then you are
probably would,
such an enlightened being that it
yeah, you'd
doesn't
probably be
matter.
ascended by about 1 million years old.
Probably,
If you were a
yeah,
million years old, I don't know if the immortality could make up for the memory loss, the memory
right,
capacity that a human brain can
right,
give.
yeah, like,
Like there's a fantasy story on one of the animes that I watch. Not gonna tell you the whole entire plot of the anime like I like to do. Um,
right,
but he's a vampire. He's been alive for thousands of years.
uh-huh,
And every 1,000 years or so, as he says, he wipes his own memory, making
oh,
sure to only keep the important bits like his family line and the
yeah,
names of the current rulers and stuff like that. And he
yeah,
has to do that. Otherwise, he doesn't have enough storage space to
uh-huh,
to keep all of that. So he wipes himself clean aside from the important bits.
right,
And using magic, blah blah blah, He-Man. Uh
right,
yeah, it works. And it makes sense
hmm,
that if you live for that long, that you would eventually reach capacity of your
right.
memory.
Yeah, they did something like that in Doctor Who a few years back. Like there was an episode where the doctor I don't remember exactly what the scenario was. Like he helped a girl, like a little girl, um like cured something for her. Like the side effect was basically she became immortal. Like she didn't die a horrible death, but she didn't die at all. And she didn't age anymore. And she stayed a little girl. And he encountered her again in another episode centuries later. And she had all these journals, like bookshelves full of journals, because she couldn't remember stuff. Like what she knew about him was what she had written down. Like, because yeah, she'd reached capacity. Like you made this normal person, not a time lord like himself, but a normal human, immortal, and she has to rely on a library full of her own journals to look things up from way back when because she can't remember them. I always thought that was an interesting thing because I hadn't considered it, like one of the downsides to immortality. But
Yeah.
but I think science-wise, I think we're gonna get around that. Science gets us around a lot of things. Like,
Yeah.
if our mind is
Please
backed up
insert
on a
disc two.
cloud, yeah, kind of like that. Like if I think we're eventually going to evolve into digital beings, but yeah, and then memory capacity won't be such an issue. But then again, 85 trillion years of memories, that's gonna take up a lot.
Yeah,
So
humanity
we have to
died out
see.
84 trillion years ago,
For at least, like
at
I mean,
least. 84.9 trillion years ago, humanity died.
right.
The sun exploded.
Yeah. Yeah, and we couldn't get past, Congress couldn't get anything done, so we never even
No,
got back to the moon. So in that time, we're
right.
still on this planet when the sun goes supernova. Like, well, we'd be dead before that happened if we were still stuck on this planet.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
just
I
the,
mean, Russia blew us up. We blew up Russia. China blew up
right.
Japan. Japan blew
And,
up China. North Korea
uh-huh,
reigned for a solid 15 years before that collapsed. And
right.
that's that.
Yeah, and even if we attain world peace but still can't get back into space, the sun is going to kill us long before it blows up.
Yeah.
If we're here on this rock.
Yeah.
It's gonna get way
Driving
too
our
hot, way too
dinosaur juice
big.
cars.
Yeah. Oh, long since run out of dinosaur juice.
Yeah. We're almost out now.
I
Um,
know.
but see Enter Shikari's third album. Um, so it's all about. But wait. If we're gonna fight for the remaining oil that's beneath the ice, what happens when it's all gone?
Uh-huh.
Haven't thought this through,
Yeah.
have you, mate?
No.
They're
People don't
British.
think stuff through.
They say stuff like mate. I wish I was British, but
Uh,
not really.
yeah,
But yeah, so fun question.
I agree.
We kind of did an episode on that.
We kind of
Well,
did.
the
It
morality
was
of immortality.
that's what it was, morality of immortality.
I think I tried to, that was one of my topics. And I tried to steer it in a way. I don't remember
Uh-huh.
how I did it
Yeah.
because I had an idea about the morality of immortality, and I think it
Uh-huh.
was because of altered carbon. But anyway,
Probably.
uh, the main concern was the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Right.
Like if
Right.
immortality is only accessible by the rich,
Mm-hmm.
then that's very bad for society.
Right.
But so I have one last question for you, Glenn.
All right.
Um,
I'll spend 3 hours on it.
you probably will.
Oh, dang, for real.
Um, Trying to decide if I should revise this question at all. Uh, so if you were to run for president,
Oh,
Glenn,
Lord.
what would your campaign promise be and or promises?
Hmm.
Max of three promises.
Okay, you know what? Because I honestly,
I bet you've thought
I
about this.
I think about this almost every day. Like, if I were to get into politics, and generally because I'm pissed off at
Right.
the system. And I'm like, so, you know, campaign promises, like, okay, here's one of my promises would be that I am not going to be a politician. Like, I'm going to be a voice of and for the people I'm trying to represent. I'm not going to kiss anyone's ass, just like I might kick someone's ass. Like, that would be my promise, is to speak truth to power, whether it gets me unelectable or not. Um, so were
I think
I,
you might kiss someone's ass.
well,
If it
only
was
if
for the
they're hot.
people,
Well,
if it was
okay,
for the
no, there's
people, you'd kiss somebody's
diplomacy,
ass.
um
You'd kiss and or
being
kick.
polite, but I'm not going to bend over backwards to please someone who's utterly corrupt and devoid of morality. And, like, I guess
Right,
that's
you're
where
not
the
a
line is.
whore.
Like, I'm capable of diplomacy, but I'm not going to pretend that problems aren't happening for political reasons, you know. I'm
Right.
not going to divert. Like, that's the thing. That's so one of my campaign promises is I'm going to be honest, like genuinely honest. And if there's something like, say, and I'd say that on the campaign trail, like, because people always ask the president, well, if you find out there's aliens, will you tell us? My answer will be, it depends. Like, if there's something I'm not going to tell you, there's a reason for it, but I'm not going to lie to you either, is kind of what my promise would be. Um, like, I would take national security very seriously, is basically how that goes. Like, if we found out there are aliens working with the government, like, I'm not going to break any treaties that may be out there. I'm not going to disclose classified information, but I'm not going to stand there and lie to you. Um, because I'm not trying to get reelected. I'd be trying to do a job because I'm sick of politicians. Like, I am sick to death of their horse crap and everyone trying, like, it's like, I consider myself an independent voter. Like, I will listen to both sides. And you know how I feel right now. Like, the Republicans have gone insane and they have a cancer that is the MAGA movement. They are not functioning as leaders at all. Um, but I feel like the Democrats, their biggest flaw right now is that they won't fight these people. Like, they believe in the rules too much. They believe in the etiquette and the way that it should be and the way that it did work for centuries.
Right. The
They
Democrats
believe
are
in
the
compromise, and I respect that, but the time has passed. Like,
yeah.
those rules, the Republicans have thrown that rule book out the window. They don't want to compromise. They don't want to solve problems. They just want to make rich people richer. And that's all that's going. And the Democrats are, like here's an example. Say you have a politician, like, you're running against someone, you're running for president. You have the damn debates that aren't real debates. They're, well, don't get me started on that. But like, you know how sometimes the people, your interlocutors, are going over their time. They're just talking over you and crap. Like, and they know they're not supposed to do that. Like, you want to respect them, their time. I would go over and grab their freaking microphone and break it. Like, I wouldn't be afraid to do that because I don't care if I get elected. Like, I just want to speak truth to power. And I'm not going to let these people walk on me. I'm not going to let them talk over me. If it's my turn and they keep speaking up like that 45th president we had, who was
And
just,
then Joe Biden was like, "Will you shut up, man?"
that was great. But
Perfect.
yeah, like,
I
and
wanted
he
to see an
wouldn't.
old man fist fight.
Yeah. And see, if I ran, you might see that because I wouldn't be afraid to beat someone's ass in Congress or on the campaign trail because, again, I don't care about being elected. I care about speaking out, standing up and speaking out. And if I get elected, that's the way I'll do things. Like, but president, you're kind of more limited. Were I to run for Congress, I could do the same thing there. Like, I could make people kind of nervous about pissing me off because I might walk over and sit on them until while I'm talking because they won't stop talking over me and trying to get sound bites out there. Like, that's how fed up I am. So that would be a campaign promise that I am going to speak truth to power, whether it gets me in trouble or not. But I'm not going to promise you anything about taxes. I'm not going to promise you anything about divulging government secrets. I'm not going to promise you anything about the budget. I'm not going to promise anything I don't know I can deliver. And I will be honest about that because that's my only promise. I'll tell you the truth, even if it means you're not going to vote for me. It's like, will this policy I want to enact raise your taxes? Yes. And I'll explain how and why, and that it's not really the problem that my opponent wants you to think it is. Because I'm not going to gouge people. And that's if the thing I come up with gets voted into law, or the bill gets passed and put on my desk. That's why you can't promise policy changes, because you can't just, you're not a king. Um, and I mean, that would be a promise I'd make, is that I will protect democracy. Like, those are the kinds of promises I would make. Things I could actually keep as an individual in a position that I can't promise you what I can talk Congress into doing, because they're a bunch of giant babies, largely, who don't
Old
know how to.
babies,
Yeah, it's
old white
giant
babies.
old white babies. Like, I can't promise you how they will behave, but I that's I mean, does that answer the question? Was
No,
that
that absolutely answers the question. Um, Honesty and truth to power, protect
Mhm.
democracy. Forgot the first thing you said, but I
Me
think it was
too.
something along the lines of honesty and truth to power, protect
Yeah,
democracy.
I mean, that's pretty much what I've just been saying. That's all of it. And it all goes
So
comes back to
basically,
that.
you have said that I will not win the presidency,
Right. And if I do, it'll be because that's what people want.
right?
If people are as fed up as I am and they see someone who isn't insane
Oh, dude, if I see
standing
a
up and
Democrat swing on a Republican on a live debate, they've got
right.
my vote. I don't know if that does that bar them from
I don't
does
know.
assaulting a presidential candidate, especially if they are the existing the sitting
Hmm.
president, does that is that like punishable by like years in prison?
I don't know. I'd have to look into that. But snatching their
Is that
microphone away, is
what if
that
he
really an
squares up with
assault?
me? Like what if Joe Biden during the presidential debates where he was like, "Will you shut up, man?"
Hmm.
Donald Trump was the president, and Donald
Yeah,
Trump was like, "Make me." What if Joe
right.
Biden squared up and Donald Trump accepted the challenge and swings first?
See, you got to
Do
wonder
we,
what Secret Service is going to do in that
yeah, are they going to
situation.
shoot Joe Biden?
Right.
They're inevitably going to break it up,
Hmm.
but
Yeah, true. So, I don't know.
like, because I wouldn't want to sucker punch him because
Right.
that doesn't
No.
get you a lot of street cred.
Because I thought about that too. Like, maybe you just challenge them. We're going to have a boxing match. Did Lincoln do that? Why
I'm
do I think
pretty
Lincoln
sure
did that?
Lincoln did that.
Hell yes. So,
it,
I
it
mean,
it's either the best or the worst thing we're thinking of because it was either Lincoln or Jackson.
mhm.
And
Okay. I want to say it was Lincoln. Jackson just shot people. That guy
Jackson
was
shot so many
nuts.
people. For whatever reason, the Christian God loved him. Uh, because that man was in so many duels and
I know.
came out unscathed.
Jeez. But yeah,
That's
like
he
I
became
might do
popular.
that. I might do, all right, I challenge you. You know, you want to be an asshole up here? Let's duke it out. And, you know, if it's someone like 45, they'd find every excuse in the book to not do it because they know they'd lose. But no, I'm not afraid to fist fight a guy. I'm not afraid to fist fight my opponent if it needs doing. Like if some dude needs a beating, like if they just need a spanking. No, I mean that's how I'd run. So no, I wouldn't be running to win. I would be shocked if I won. And if I did win, I would do my best to not disappoint. But yeah,
Abe Lincoln was a rather acclaimed and respected street fighter.
sweet.
Um, yeah, he even has a spot in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
It's not mythology. Lincoln expert and best-selling author of A. Lincoln, a biography, Ronald C. White told WWE.com in 2012.
See Lincoln in
Side note, this
WWE.
interview is really worth reading, both for the actual information it contains and for the number of references to wrestlers like The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and Captain Lou Albano, shamelessly shoehorned into the pros.
Wow.
Quote, Lincoln definitely wrestled, end quote.
Sweet.
Um, yeah, I mean, he was 6'4" and like
Right.
240 pounds.
Yeah, so you
Uh,
wouldn't want to fight this guy.
he was an absolute specimen.
Indeed.
Uh, but no, yeah, excellent answer to the question.
Oh, thanks.
Um,
I'm glad I didn't disappoint. Maybe I should run for office.
no, I mean,
Just for fun.
yeah, you could be like what's his name in Vermont? Um, God, what is that guy's name? The wizard dude.
The wizard dude
Do you
in
not know who I'm talking
Vermont?
about? Yeah.
I mean, it's not ringing a bell.
Uh, fill up this empty space.
Are you talking about
Vernon
frickin'
Supreme.
Vermin Supreme? I
Vermin
got it right
Supreme.
before you said it.
Vernon.
Vermin.
Or is it Vermin or Vernon?
I think it's Vermin Supreme. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, it's vermin, like as in a raccoon or
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
possum.
Vermin Supreme. See, I
Yeah.
don't want to be a joke. If I were to run for office, I'd I'd be willing to win, I guess. But he
If
needs to
elected
do more.
president, he will pass a law requiring people to brush their teeth.
Yeah, see, he's just kind of a
He is he
satirical
has campaigned on the platform of zombie
character.
apocalypse awareness and time travel research and
Yeah,
promise
and
a free pony for every American.
right. See, those are idiotic campaign promises, but that's what he's doing. You
See,
know,
so
he's
the only
highlighting the absurdity of campaign promises.
yeah, and so the only I don't know if you'll enjoy this, but if you'll humor me, um,
Always.
and to make this long podcast even longer,
Right.
that's why I'm hesitant to do this.
Like we
But
thought this podcast episode might last 10 minutes. We
yeah,
were
no,
talking
you
before, what
did
if it lasts
excellent.
10 minutes?
Yeah, you did excellent. Um, so what would your campaign promises be? And or promise, you don't have to, if you wanted to get elected. If you were just going to appeal to the idiotic masses and then either flip-flop on your promises
Uh,
to put in your actual ideals, what would be if you wanted to play the
honestly,
game of politics? And that's sort of
you know,
I
it's more
knew I
like
was
if you
getting
were
into.
someone else, if you were
Yeah,
someone
exactly,
else, I
exactly. If
mean,
you were someone else,
Well,
It,
if
it
I was someone else, I'd be full of horse crap, just like
yeah,
everyone
you
else.
would.
So it wouldn't. I mean, because honestly, like if you only changed if I wanted to get elected, honestly, it wouldn't be any different. Because if I want, because I think if I ran for office, it's not like I wouldn't be playing politics. My ultimate goal would not be getting elected, but I would want to get elected. Like I would want to be able to carry this further. And my hope would be that running a very different campaign would inspire people to vote for me. Like if I could prove my honesty and my earnestness and my willingness to cross the line when it needs to be crossed and to spank the babies in Congress when it needs doing, I would hope that that would get me elected. But it's like I wouldn't be disappointed if I didn't get elected because I still spoke truth to power, and that's the bigger goal. But I don't know. Like if I had to make
You don't have
campaign
to. That's a
promises,
perfectly acceptable answer.
okay, good, because I just can't. It just makes me feel gross to even I couldn't do that, which means I would be considered unelectable. But that doesn't mean I'm unelectable.
Right.
It just
You'd want to be
means,
elected your way,
yeah, it
which
just
is
means, yeah,
speak to the hearts of the impoverished and downtrodden American
yeah,
enough
yeah,
to
get up
see
there and
that's my guy.
speak for pissed off, not stupid America.
Right.
Like, pissed off, they can see what's going on and are powerless to do anything about it, America.
Like if you ask Donald Trump to show you one
Bleh.
statistic
That was unprofessional.
showing you anything to prove anything he said, he'd just be a blubbering fool.
Because that's all he does. He's just Captain Word Salad
Well, no, and so like that would be
and
the case for
lies.
most politicians
Uh-huh.
running on promises. That's
Yeah.
why the Green Party looks like morons often in debates
Uh-huh.
because they have all these grand ideals, but then they try to posture when they're asked about them. I would have grand ideals were I to run for president. They would
Hmm.
not be promises,
Right.
they would be ideals. And when asked about the dirty, nitty gritty details to try to throw me off my rocker,
Hmm.
I'd be like, I'd have to consult with my team of experts
Right.
because I want this thing to happen, like
Hmm.
go completely carbon neutral as a
Right.
country. But I don't know the exact nitty gritties. I have
Hmm.
a team of people. Like when you elect a president, you're not just electing a president. It's not just a
Right.
single person. You're electing them and
And the
everybody that they think is important.
right, everyone they're going to appoint to things.
Yes.
Yeah, their chosen team. I agree. And me, I would have that team work out the details so I'd have it on the campaign trail, but I would also make it clear I am not the expert here.
Right.
Like some things, like get back to me at the next one, I'll have an answer
We'll
for you, and I
publish. Yeah.
would. Like that's the thing too. Like people they get out of a question. I wouldn't do that. Like I hate that more than anything politicians do on the campaign
The
trail when they're just evasive. And it's like you answered the question by not answering the question.
yeah, the
Why
the
are we
question was about
pretending that
the
you
war in
didn't?
Iraq, and then the answer ends up being something to the effect of the border crisis.
Right. It's like
And
you
it's
just
like
don't want to talk about it because you're not going to do anything and no, you don't have a
gay marriage.
plan.
Yeah, no, it goes from like Afghanistan pulling our troops out of Afghanistan to I will not allow gay marriage.
Hmm.
It's just like what are you talking about? That was
Right.
not where the
No.
question was.
I
And
hate
there's that
that.
Family Guy episode where Lois is running for mayor and
Hmm.
Ryan gives her the
I
advice to
remember that one.
just say 9/11. People love that. And she just starts saying 9/11. The crowd goes fucking nuts
God.
because
Oh,
she's like
too real. But
too real. Yeah, and so
that's the
good
kind of
answer.
crap I hate. Yeah.
Not
Uh,
nice. I would vote for you, Glenn,
oh, thanks.
just to see this world burn.
Right,
But
just to watch it all burn. But I wouldn't be
yeah,
running to make the world burn. I'd be running to stop to put the fire
no, I'd
out.
be terrified
But
of you running for president because then if you win, I'd be getting a call. It's like, hey, Matt, how do you feel about being a Supreme Court justice? And I'd be like, what the fuck, Glenn? I don't have any of the qualifications for that. Uh,
well, you do
it's like,
now. Here's a
I don't,
koala
I,
costume. Now
I
you're
don't know. I just think it'd be
qualified.
funny if you're appointed for life.
Oh,
I wonder what
right.
their salary is. That's actually
Probably ridiculously
probably
good. And they have benefits. Like,
probably ridiculously good and worse than we think.
right. No, you're probably right. Yeah.
If the presidential salary, the last time I checked up on the
Oh,
presidential
it's not.
salary,
Yeah.
it was worse than you'd think for being the president, but you get a
Yeah.
salary for life.
Right. It's for life. You're gonna be all right. You're not gonna be on the
The last time
street.
I checked was like during Obama's first term or
Hmm.
first or second term, and it was like 400 grand a year for life. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's good money.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
you don't
it's
have to
more than
do
I get
anything
paid.
ever again.
Yeah.
Like you won America.
Hmm.
You could just drop off the face of the earth and nobody would care. I mean, look
Right.
at George Bush. He's painting fucking people for fun now.
Right. Right.
And just he owned the Rangers for fun, partial owner.
Yeah.
I don't know if he
Right.
still does that. Uh Texas Rangers, but
I don't know either.
I know he was a partial owner. I don't know if he still is.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, good interview.
Oh, thanks. Same to you. That was a good interview. You did good. I'm telling you, I'm intimidated. I don't know how I'm gonna match
Oh, I did. Oh,
what you've
damn
done
it, I
here.
missed one.
Oh, you did? What was
We
it?
got through every question, so you're gonna have to make this one quick.
We'll see about
Uh,
that.
yeah.
I'm a
This is just
loquacious
more.
fellow.
Yeah, we got deep there for a good
True.
last three of the questions or so. Um, what's your favorite musical act, Glenn?
Wait, my favorite musical act, like
Like not
band?
at yes, like as in a singer in particular, like somebody who does music. Like, what do you like to listen to, Glenn?
I,
Who's your favorite band? Just something along those lines. Do
I
you
mean,
like Janis Joplin or do you like
I like a lot. Like I have a very eclectic taste, but my favorite, hands down, is Erasure, which is,
nice?
a UK band. It's two guys, Vince Clarke and Andy Bell. Uh, I love them. They've been the soundtrack to my life. So,
You ever
and
seen them live?
yeah, so many times, and like their concerts are like a party. It's like you're going to a party when you go to an Erasure concert, and a
Do they
fun
still tour?
party. Yeah. Yeah, Vince Clarke's wife actually just passed away, so I don't know what that's going to do to things.
Hmm.
But you know, they do. I mean, up until now, they have still toured. COVID shut down their last American thing, but I'm hoping they come back. I love them. So, yay. That was a good that I see I could answer that. How do you get deep with that? I like Erasure
Oh, I could ask several
or
follow-up questions, but I will not.
Erasure as they say it because they're
Erasure,
British. Erasure. We're
erasure,
like erasure.
erasure,
uh
and they say it like Eurasia,
right.
like
But I don't know.
European Asia, Asiatic European border countries. Um, Eurasia.
But they're just, they can be like tonally so many things. Like they have a lot of really high energy happy songs, but they also have really moody soulful songs like I don't know. You can go deep with Erasure. Sometimes they
No,
make me
totally.
cry.
No,
Like I've
they came
actually
to
listened to an Erasure song for the first time. Like when I was writing a book hasn't been published yet called The Composer, but one of the songs that kind of triggered my imagination to actually get that done, it was on a new album. I just put in the headphones and I listened to a new Erasure album. And like one of the songs just moved me to tears. I wept. It was so beautiful. Um, and it got my writing juices flowing. Oh, but go on, you were going to say something.
I mean, nothing moving to tears. But no, it piqued my. I mean, I knew the answer to this question,
Okay.
before I asked it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but what sort of caught my attention, to develop that question to, elicit the answer I expected, was there's this, hot goth mom that I
Uh-huh.
am, friends with on the internets,
That's
and
me in
and
disguise.
yeah, right. Hopefully not. I hope you don't have way too many children for your age.
I do. I
Um,
keep them in the closet. Go on.
uh, but no, she had like a bingo chart that she had filled out of like her music taste, and it is all like heavy, like death metal and
Uh-huh.
black metal in every single space, and then in one single space was Erasure.
Really? That's
Yeah,
great.
and I was just like, huh,
Because they're just so magical.
that
Erasure is so fantastic.
they have found their way into this black heart of hers.
No doubt.
And so they must be a special, special band.
They are a special, special band.
And so I found that
That's
interesting
cool.
that she listens to both Necro Goblin and
And
Erase.
Erasure. I love it. I love
Awesome
that
band
so
name
much.
too.
Yeah,
It's a
true.
good band name
It really is.
because it's like just smart enough of a word to
Uh-huh.
where the common man may have heard the application
Uh-huh.
of erasure,
Yeah.
but also just intellectual enough to where not everybody uses that word
Right.
ever.
True.
Like,
True.
I'm sure there are people that have been like born, lived, and died and never used the word erasure in
Right.
context.
Right. It sounds cool. Like
Yeah,
it just sounds cool.
the act
Erasure.
of being erased,
Yeah. And I think I
or
don't know if this is
or the
mythology or
state of having been erased. I think that's more accurate
yeah.
because
Like
or is it an act? Erasure is an act.
yeah, it's
Erasure is a verb.
erasure. Yeah, you no, it's that's confusing. Is it a noun or a verb? Like
I think it's
because
both.
erasing is an action, but an
That
erasure,
erasing is present progressive.
mm, yeah,
The act
but
of currently erase
an erasure I think is a noun
and yeah, an erasure.
because and I think like in this maybe mythology, like I was saying it, but I think that's how they named their band was they were trying to come up with band names and they kept erasing and starting
Ooh,
over.
nice,
And then it's
nice.
like, well, we'll just call ourselves Erasure.
It's
And
a good band name.
yeah, it really is. Yeah, gosh, I want to
I
go
come up
see
with
the
fictional
concert.
band names all the time.
I mean, we all do. It's
Yeah.
yours are probably the best.
Oh, just they're here and there. But
We'll find out. I
yeah.
look forward to interviewing you.
Yeah, no, I'm still terrified.
I'm gonna
Um,
ask you deep, probing questions like, what's your favorite color?
yeah, right. I only had like two of those type of questions.
I don't remember those. Did you?
Well, one of them was, "What's your favorite musical act?"
Oh yeah.
And then the other one was, "Where are you from?"
Oh yeah. Okay. So the beginning and the end.
Yeah,
That's
the beginning and the end. I'm
so
Alpha
it
and
worked.
Omega.
I like it because the first one was a warm up and the last one was a wind down.
It really was.
It
I planned
worked
that
out.
totally.
Yeah, you
Um,
didn't just miss a question.
yeah, no, definitely not. Cut that part. Um, but anyway, so super fun episode.
I agree.
Um, it is late where we are.
It is very late. I've been up. It's what time? It's 2:15. Is that what it
Yep,
says?
that's what it says.
And I've been up since 5 a.m. technically yesterday. I'm a little bit tired, but this was an energizing conversation. I hope I can do the same. I hope I can do justice, like and keep it as energized and interesting with the questions that I come up with for you. Gotta
Well,
think of
a
things
lot of
that'll
that,
get you
lies
talking.
on me.
That's true. But I should come up with questions that you, as a fellow loquacious fellow,
I am
can
loquacious.
throw a lot of words at.
Yeah, I think I said a total of like 150 words during this episode.
Oh wow. I bet you said more.
I
Because
probably did.
we've been talking for like
Somebody out there
10
count.
hours.
Amanda count. Um, fictitious producer count. Uh, but yeah, no, super fun episode. If you made it this far, thank you.
Thank you,
This
thank
is
you.
this has been the story of Glenn Clark, where he has
Next
been and
week.
where he has gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And next month we'll be doing the story of Matthew Paul.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm terrified. Should be
Right.
good.
Yeah, bring your 3D
I'll talk a
glasses,
bunch.
kids. We're gonna
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know what we're gonna do with that. Uh
We'll bring in the window humper.
the window humper. Yeah, from my junior high days.
I wonder
We'll
how
find
he's
out that
doing.
it actually was Matt.
Yeah, right. I am a time traveler and a lizard man.
True. From the land of the lost. Your sleeve stack.
Yeah, I'm a slee stack. We're gonna have to watch that.
Heck yeah. I'm
The
down.
Will Ferrell one.
Yeah. I
It's
need to see it.
hilarious
I'm sure it is.
because a lot of what you said is involved. But anyway, we got to wrap this up.
Right, we do. We do.
Um, so Glenn, if you'll do that for me.
All right, goodbye. All right, so you can please comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Have a conversation with us. Tell us what you like, dislike. Tell us what you can relate to.
Tell us about your
Just
life.
tell us about your life. Yeah, answer the questions he asked me. Like, let us know who you are. We're letting you know who we are. Tell us who you are. I really do want to know because that sounds like a fun conversation to have down in the comments section. Um, what else do we need? Oh yeah, if you aren't watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to the podcast in its purest audio form, I don't know if it's purest, but in its audio only form, and you want to send us a message or comment on what we've been talking about, you can email us at autodidacticapodcast at
Gmail.
gmail.com. And we look forward to hearing from you. We haven't done it in a few episodes, but we do reply to as many comments as we can. Some of them we'll do it in the comment section, some of it we'll do on the show. Um, and that's always fun. We love hearing from y'all. And what else? If you want to stalk me in particular, you can go to my author website, glennslakeclarkjr.com. Check out my books. I've got a new short story out. I mean, by the time this airs, I don't know. I'll have more out probably, hopefully. But as of the recording, my short story Metronome's Death Match has just come out. So check out my writing, make me rich,
Check it out.
so I can become immortal.
Yeah. And
And I'll bring you
college
all
teacher.
along with me, and a college teacher who's going to run for president.
An immortal
And
college teaching president.
right, you're right. And I'll get 400 grand for like 85
Well,
trillion years. They'll pay
yeah,
me for
yeah, a long time.
as long as the universe
Boy, are they gonna be
endures.
pissed.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna be ticked off, but whatevs. I'm
But
down
anyway,
with
thank
it.
you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to y'all next time.
Until next time.